All sports, all the time.
There's heroes and there's legends. Heroes get remembered. Legends never die.
This is the Spoken Podcast.
Hold your ears, folks. It's showtime.
I'm your host, Lance Twidwell.
Man, that kid, he can ball, man. He can ball.
Touchdown, Kansas City!
Patrick freaking Mahomes, baby!
Let's talk some sports because that's what we're here to do.
You are tuned in to the Spoken.
This is the Spoken Podcast. I'm your host, Lance Twidwell, here with my guys, Eddie Ortiz.
Yo.
Trevor Twidwell.
What's up, guys?
Here in the KC Beard Co. studios. We're very excited to get this show off the ground tonight. We have a fun-filled, packed show tonight for you guys. We have several topics. I think we even had to turn away a few topics tonight because there's been a lot of news in the world of sports, not just locally, but nationally. And as if you guys know, we don't just talk local. We obviously talk a lot of national as well. And we have a lot of national stuff to talk about this week because if you've missed it, there's a lot going on in the NBA, the NFL, even the MLB, which we will try to get to some MLB. But more than likely, we're going to talk about the NBA and some local Chiefs football. This is going to be a tough topic for me because of the fact that Trevor and I, obviously we're brothers. We grew up together. We're only 14 months apart. So everything we did together and we enjoyed the sports landscape together. We usually liked all the same players, same teams for the most part. And when it comes to the NBA, I think that most people would agree that it's a star-driven league. It's always been a star-driven league. And no matter if you're a fan of a particular team, if you have a favorite player, there's always these players from random teams, from random parts of the NBA that you admire and you respect and you enjoy watching.
Yep.
Two of those guys go by the name of Dwayne Wade and Dirk Nowitzki. And as ironic as it is, despite the fact that one played over 20 years and one hasn't reached 20 years, they're both retiring at the exact same time, and they both went out in epic fashion. But not only that, they went out in a way that was extremely respected. Every player in the NBA, from what we've heard, loves these guys, former and present. And it's really hard to let go. And I'm just being real because as an NBA fan, they're the type of guys that you would consider ambassadors of the game. And I'm not just talking about the NBA. I'm talking about basketball in itself. And losing two guys like this at the same time is really hard to accept because it also reminds me that I'm getting old. And I never thought that this day would come when I'd see guys that I have watched their entire career hang it up. So it's a really unique chapter for myself, and I'm sure Trevor, and I'm sure you too, Eddie, where you start to see, and I'm sure, Eddie, you can relate to this in soccer, when you start to see guys that you've admired and loved since you were a child.
It's depressing, man, because it's something you don't grow up to believe. You know what I mean? Like it's something you grow up watching these players, and you're like, man, like I believe they're gonna play all my entire life,
right.
And then that day comes to where they have to retire because they can no longer keep up with the game, and it's depressing, man. To be honest with you, like there's when my favorite soccer player, for instance, when he retired, I'm not gonna lie, I did cry a little bit because the emotion and all the happiness and all that stuff
You're
that he brought.
attached.
Yeah, because you get attached
sure.
to these players. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's hard.
Yeah,
it's hard.
It's hard to accept, like I said, because of the fact like you don't want to let go of the memories, but more than anything, you feel like it went by so quickly, you know, and I don't want to get too sad because we're going to have a great time tonight. We're going to talk about some fun stuff and obviously Hold This L is coming. We have a lot of topics to come down to, guys. But I wanted to start the show off with that I know those guys are never going to hear this podcast, but I really want to give a shout out to them. And
you never know.
You never know. You're right. But regardless of whether they ever hear this or not, I wanted to be the first to voice it on this podcast and say I'm very lucky. I consider myself very fortunate that I had the golden opportunity to watch these two all-time great players play their entire career. Dirk Nowitzki, most people didn't even know who this guy was coming into the league.
The dude changed the game.
He changed the game.
Absolutely changed the game. Not just being a European player, but being really the first guy to implement a spread 4 type of player. Because before him, really bigs weren't stepping out and draining threes like that.
Right.
I mean, there was random guys that had a decent shot, mid-range jumper. But Dirk was doing step backs from 30 feet in like ridiculous range, and he brought a whole, and he's the one that inspired KD. He inspired KD to obviously KD's got way more of an arsenal, but just to, be that influence on the future of a lot of players that, guys like him and Manu. I mean, let's not leave Manu out of this too, man. Manu was one of my favorite players growing up. I love that guy too. So he's in this mix as well with these guys, all Hall of Famers in my mind. So yeah, yeah, it's crazy, man.
Well,
It's D Wade for sure.
And it goes deeper than just the game of basketball too, because like I said, these guys are incredible people. Dirk Nowitzki is an extremely humble person.
Humble. Both of them are humble.
When he was at his peak and they beat the Heat in 2011,
one of the greatest runs ever.
Yeah, he seemed unstoppable. Like there was nothing you could do to stop his little fadeaway jump shot. Like he was unstoppable. And to watch that, like you said, he changed the game. That we've seen so many different players, even like Karl Anthony Towns, like guys that I didn't think took Dirk as like their ultimate inspiration, said, I wouldn't be the player I am if it was not for Dirk. I mean, that speaks volumes.
Yeah, and leading up to, a lot of Europe, we've seen a lot of Euro players come and go before him too. And they always had the reputation of being soft or, guys that would just complain too much, because they had the kind of that soccer mentality. Because, in soccer, there's a lot of theatrics. But Dirk was never that guy. Dirk was always, he would take an elbow to the chin, just walk down the court, no complaints, no big deal. And then drain a 45-foot shot in your face in the buzzer. It's just one of those guys that it was just, and then D Wade's just an absolute class act, true champion. So yeah, it's gonna be weird not having these guys around. But I mean, at the same time, it was kind of a slow burn with both of them. We kind of both knew, they were on their way out. Yeah, so it wasn't like they're both in their prime and all of a sudden they're cut short. But at the same time, man, it is
careers.
It is going to be weird not seeing two landmark type players.
I will say my favorite thing about Dwayne Wade, because now that I've kind of glossed over Dirk Nowitzki as a person and as a player, what I loved about Dwayne Wade the most was the fact he was such a willing
superstar.
Yeah, he was a willing superstar. Yeah. He was willing to give LeBron James the keys to the franchise.
He took the back seat.
He'd already won a championship and an NBA MVP or a Finals MVP in Miami, and LeBron goes there, takes over because Dwayne Wade realized, if I can get this guy here, we're going to win multiple championships. That's exactly what they should have probably won more, but they were at 4 straight. So they had an extremely successful run together. And it was because of Dwayne Wade's willingness, even more than so LeBron James' ability. Because if Dwayne Wade wasn't willing to hand that over, it would have never happened.
Yeah.
That was the whole thing LeBron said is why he struggled in that 2011 series against the Mavs was because of the fact that he did not know his place yet on that team. And Dwayne Wade told him going into that next year, this is your team. I'm here to help you. You're the best player in the world. What ended up happening? They won back-to-back championships. LeBron went back-to-back NBA finals. So that's the point. It would not have happened if it wasn't for Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade was an absolute pivotal player as to why LeBron James has a legacy that he has.
Well, and two, I think around that time, especially after their first run, obviously they failed, but I think D Wade kind of knew his body was starting to kind of fail him. And that kind of helped, I think, him take a back seat because he knew LeBron was just at that time. LeBron was just an absolute. We'd never seen anything like that on both sides of the court. I mean, he should have been Defensive Player of the Year too, a couple of those years. But yeah, I mean, I think that played a big factor in too. And D Wade, not only was his character in the right place, he's definitely a class act. But yeah, his knees and everything starting to fail him. It kind of probably helped.
Yeah, and Dirk Nowitzki now sits, I think, at 5th all time in scoring, which is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And Dwayne Wade finishes his career, despite an injury-riddled career. He's had a lot of injuries throughout his career. He finished as 30th. So that's high praise to both these guys.
And I think he's the all-time leader in blocks and the shooting guard position. So, I mean, the guy is elite on both ends.
You can make the case that we've never seen a better shooting guard outside of Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. You could legitimately say that Dwayne Wade could score.
Paul Pierce, bro. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, you can get the. I mean, I love Paul. Paul is an absolute jackass for even starting that argument. We don't even need to get into
Paul
that.
Pierce was an absolute dog, bro.
But yeah, Paul Pierce was. But you guys do know that Dwayne Wade could play next season, not score a single point, all 82 games, and still have a higher career. Yeah, a higher career scoring average than Paul Pierce. Paul Pierce gets get the fuck out of here with that. But the point is that we witnessed 2 incredible players. We're losing 2 incredible players, and the game will never be the same because of those 2 guys. So my hat is off to them. Thank you so much for giving me so much enjoyment watching you 2 guys. And moving further into this NBA discussion, because I love talking NBA. I could do an entire podcast talking NBA. Trevor and I both could do that.
Yes, we can.
Moving into some of the dramatics of basketball. Obviously, the talking point, the hottest talking point in the NBA is the Lakers. This week, abruptly, Lakers GM or Lakers president Magic Johnson decided to step down. Told the media that he was done, and that was a decision he made without telling the owner Jeannie Buss. That's what he was going to do because he was tired of where he was at as far as the president, as far as not having fun. And when I heard the news, what did I do, guys? I texted both of you and I said, this is the best move for Magic Johnson. This is the best move for the Lakers because I believe Magic Johnson is a very good person. I believe Magic Johnson has a great heart and he loves people. And I think it's to the point that he loves people so much that he likes being loved back. And I think he was afraid that if I continue to go down the path I'm going right now, and I'm not doing my job to the best of my abilities, I'm going to start being hated in this town. Because if you think about how hard it is for a city like LA. You have LA and New York, the two biggest sports markets in our country. Do you realize how hard it is to be universally loved in a city like that? Yeah. Magic Johnson and Derek Jeter are two guys that were universally loved in the two biggest sports. You cannot say that about literally anybody else. Even Kobe has people in LA, Laker fans that did not like Kobe. I know them personally. So my point is, to be universally liked, that meant something to Magic. And I think he realized being in his time as the president, the Lakers were winning barely 44% of their games. He was not doing his job. He traded D'Angelo Russell. He went and signed Luol Deng and Timofey Mozgov to ridiculously stupid contracts.
Got rid of Brook Lopez. I think that was the worst move.
He traded Zubac, and the Clippers literally laughed at him.
For Muscala.
Yeah, exactly. So I think Magic Johnson realized, I'm not good at this job, and I do not want to hurt this franchise anymore. So he stepped down, and I think that's the best thing that could happen for the Lakers because now they can go get themselves a David Griffin for LeBron James because that's something that would make a lot of sense. You go get Ty Lue, and segueing into that, Luke Walton has been officially let go today. He reported that he has parted ways with the LA Lakers. That's another thing I think is best for both parties because I think Luke Walton could be a decent coach in this NBA. I don't think he'll ever be a great coach, but I think he's good enough to go get another job. And I think that, Trevor, you and I talked earlier today, I think it's going to be the Kings. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, man. Honestly, I don't want him as my head coach. I think he's a great staff guy. I think he's a great assistant coach. Because I think he's an extremely high IQ guy. I think he's a smart guy. I mean, he's been around basketball since he could, speak. Being who his dad is and everything. But me being a diehard Kings fan, man, I really don't want him as my head coach because I feel like because we just fired Dave Yeager, who I thought as a person I loved his attitude towards the game, but he just was not good at closing games. We should have been in the playoffs this year, plain and simple. We have too good of a team. We played well this year. We had a couple injuries, but as far as coaching, I feel like Dave Yeager and Luke Walton are damn near identical as far as their coaching styles. They're not aggressive enough when it comes down to the closing out games and finishing tight games or holding a lead. Those are the things that we struggle with. So yeah, to be honest, as a Kings fan, I really hope they don't sign him. But supposedly, from what I've heard on the Vlade Divac has Luke Walton on the top of his list. I don't know if that was a ploy to mess with the Lakers, but Vlade Divac has kind of shown it to be a little, I'm
going to be honest with you. I know Vlade just got his extension.
He's made some good draft picks, so I'll give Vlade that.
He's
drafted very well.
I'll give him some of these. He's been awful with his decisions when it comes to brass.
With in-house moves.
Yeah, I think Yeager was a really good coach, and they won, I think, 12 more games this year than last year?
The most we have in the last 10 years, I think.
The only thing I will say, the knock on Yeager, is the fact that I think the Kings should have made the playoffs this year.
Yes.
They were in position to be in the 8th spot or 7th spot.
Okay, we got swept by the Warriors this year by a combined 12 points.
Right.
So, I mean, we're in every single one of those games, man.
And to bring it back to Luke Walton, everyone talks about, is he a good coach? Is he a good coach or not? That's the question. I don't know because, obviously we saw when he was with the Warriors, when Steve Kerr was out for, I think 2 or 3 months.
Right.
I think they went 39-4 with Luke Walton. So I understand. I'm not saying anybody can do that with the Warriors. My point is, I don't really know how good Luke Walton is with getting his team motivated, getting his team to want to win games, getting his team in the right position, X's and O's. I don't know if Luke Walton is necessarily good at that stuff. So that's the question I'm going to have as far as his next suitor. As far as the Lakers is concerned, when it comes to their next player, or their next coach, when it comes to the guy they're going to bring in, it has to be a guy that LeBron James wants. And I'm not saying that as in LeBron's going to control the Lakers. I don't believe that's the case. It never has been. Right. I've always hated when people say LeBron controls his teams. That's not true at all. But you have to get a guy that LeBron respects, and that is Ty Lue.
And not just that, another a coach that other players respect, that other superstars respect. And that's what Kyrie comes right into this picture because we all know that Kyrie respects Ty Lue and has won a championship with Ty Lue. So
what did I tell you? What did I tell you a week ago? I said sense. Kyrie is going to the Lakers.
He's giving them a visit for sure.
Kyrie actually share a locker room with LeBron James?
Absolutely. They won a championship together.
They've kissed and made up, though.
They absolutely have. No, because you've actually heard Kyrie come out numerous times and
he
say
admitted he was wrong.
and all that stuff, and talk to LeBron, apologize.
They've squashed it, and I'm telling you right now, I fully expect Kyrie Irving is going to be one of the players on whether Anthony Davis gets there or not. I know they've been talking. Jeannie Buss has been talking about Kawhi Leonard as their number
not
one.
just I mean, and then Rick Bucher came out, and one of the main guys out there in the Bay Area the Los Angeles area, talking about Kawhi being the number one target. Which I'm all for that. If you can get LeBron and Kawhi on the same team, and then
they would be seamless.
Yeah,
seamless.
Because he plays off the ball. LeBron is on the ball. And LeBron can play his system.
Kawhi is not a good passer.
Right.
He's an incredible defender. They complement each other's game so well.
And his jump shot has been improving like every year.
Every year.
He's a great defender. But what I was telling Trevor right before we got started. Do you think Kawhi can stay healthy enough to finish the season?
That's a question.
Legitimate.
That's a question with Kawhi as well, or not Kawhi, Kyrie as well, because Kyrie's been banged up a lot too. But
are the Lakers?
It's because honestly, though, I think a lot of the injuries with Kawhi and Kyrie is because of their usage. Their usage isn't going to be as high with LeBron because LeBron takes a lot of the brunt of the load playing, being the on-ball guy, being the distributor guy.
And furthermore, to that point, here's the other thing that these two guys I think would crave, absolutely crave, and why I don't believe this bullshit that Kawhi Leonard doesn't want to play with LeBron James or that Kyrie wouldn't want to reunite.
They're friends, right?
Not just that. Those guys don't like the media. Neither one of those guys like talking
LeBron
to the media. Why do you think Kawhi feels so comfortable in Toronto? Because no one cares about Toronto.
He's gone, dude.
I can see why Kyrie doesn't like the media because with all the flat Earth shit.
Well, that was self-inflicted though. My point is this. Kyrie stepped out from under the umbrella of LeBron James, became his own man in Boston, and got criticized for everything he said, good and bad. He realized, I had it so good in Cleveland. I could have just stayed.
He quickly changed his tone and it was humbled by being in Boston.
I could have just stayed. I could have just stayed in the comfort zone of being LeBron's guy.
Yeah.
So I think there's an opportunity, a golden opportunity for a reuniting. And Kawhi Leonard knows he can be living in LA where he's from, that area he's from. He's still in his prime. He can play alongside LeBron and Kyrie Irving. I think if that happens, man, they are I would pick them to win the championship.
Yes, especially if KD leaves.
That's going to happen.
If KD goes east, the whole West is
Kevin
open.
Durant is absolutely leaving the Warriors. And it's not because the situation's not good. The situation's great.
Yeah.
The point is that Kevin Durant realized he's a very self-conscious person. He knows,
obviously,
I have to go and make my own legacy because even though he's won 2, soon to be 3 championships in Golden State, he will never be the guy. And ironic enough, even though they're going to look back and say that was Steph's team, Kevin Durant has won the 2 MVPs to this point. And since he's been with the Golden State Warriors, he's been the MVP. But if you ask any Warriors fan, who's the most valuable player on those teams? No one's saying Kevin Durant.
It's Curry.
Everyone's saying Steph Curry.
Well, we've seen that. We've seen that we've seen that.
We've seen it. You know what I mean? Like, even if you're not a Warriors fan, you know that is not KD's team. That is all Curry's team. Curry is the face. He's the franchise.
Well, we just seen when KD's out, the team is still balling out and winning games. But we seen when Curry was out, they missed that because teams can zone in on KD, and then I'm not saying Klay Thompson isn't a baller, but you can keep him if his shot's off. You just got to worry about him on the other side to playing great defense because he's a solid defender. But yeah, Steph Curry is definitely the MVP of that team still, and it's not even a question. It's shown. It's proven. So I think the best player is KD, but the most valuable player is definitely Steph Curry.
There's no question.
Yeah.
I think that, yes, Kevin Durant is one of the 3 to 5 best players in the NBA.
Absolutely.
And you have to look at it like this. He realizes that. He knows that I need to go make my own legacy because even in OKC, a lot of people didn't know who was the most valuable player. Is it Russ?
Yeah.
Is it KD? We don't know.
Definitely in question.
And so he has never really felt like he is the man. So I think if he goes to New York, regardless if they get another superstar, you're looking at Kevin Durant trying to reconfigure his image. Because if he goes to New York, no one can criticize him and say, oh, you're a snake and you went to another great team.
Yeah, but at the same time, you better win.
I think he's
got to win, dude.
I think we all know when he goes to New York, he's not winning another thing.
How?
New York is the worst. New York is the worst organization. The Knicks are the worst organization in basketball, and the Cavs still exist.
Yeah, but do you think
that's how bad they are?
Do you think that his motivation to going there is to like create a huge notch on his legacy to be the guy that went to the Knicks and revised the Knicks and brought him back from the dead and changed them and maybe brought him into a finals appearance at least? That would be a huge deal for his legacy. But if he's going to go out on a limb and go east and then go to the Knicks, one of the worst franchises in recent history for a while now. He's going to in his mind that you would think he would want to be in a winning situation.
Yeah, that's the point, though. I said that he is in the best situation right now, and we all know he's leaving. So clearly, the fact that he's still leaving the best situation in the NBA tells me that winning isn't what is most important to Kevin Durant now. That's why he went to Golden State in the first place, because he wanted to win. Now that he's done his thing, he's going to have 3 rings going into his next situation. He's now trying to become mogul because he wants to be LeBron James so badly. He knows I am going to have the same amount of rings as LeBron James now. Now I can turn into a mogul. I can become the marketing. Think about it. Where's the number 1 marketing place in the entire world or entire country? It's New York. Yeah. So he's going to go to that. Now, here's the problem for Kevin Durant. I think it's going to blow up in his face. That is all. What comes with that is the media. And he is so sensitive. He could not handle OKC's media. He couldn't stand LA's media, Golden State's media, which is in the San Francisco area, which is not really that tough on you, let's be honest. And then you're going to go to the number 1. So I don't think it's going to work out for Kevin Durant as far as success is concerned. But as far as mogul stage where he actually becomes a brand, I do think it can actually work out.
It depends. It depends on, obviously, we're counting on New York to make some smart moves here.
Which they won't.
If they draft well, because they're going to have a high draft pick. We'll see who gets the first and second. But 2, maybe if they get a Kimba or, Chris Middleton. I think Chris Middleton staying in Milwaukee, who I think is a solid 2 player. If you give him a good, Robin to his Batman, I think he could definitely make some noise in the East, though.
Can KD pull those players, though, like LeBron can?
Probably not. He's not
handpick the ones you want.
He's not really. When have you ever heard players like, "Oh, I want to go play with KD"? You don't ever hear stuff like that. So how I know him and Kyrie are cool, and there's been a lot of noise earlier. There was a lot of noise about both them going to the Knicks, but with the traction with Kyrie going to LA has actually been picking up a lot lately because we didn't hear anything about him visiting LA, and now all of a sudden he's visiting LA. So that definitely throws a wrench in everything that we thought about them going to New York. But we'll see, man. I don't know. He doesn't need many pieces to be successful in the East right now, especially if Kawhi walks and goes to LA. The East is kind of up for grabs. Besides the Sixers.
Kawhi is not staying in Toronto.
Oh, no. That's what I'm saying. He's gone. So if KD goes over there, it's really perfect timing for him to make some noise in the East.
Kawhi is either going to be a Laker or a Clipper.
You just got to deal with Giannis. That's about it.
The thing about, though, for me, and we're going to get out of this segment right after this, Kawhi, for me, if he goes to the Clippers, I think they become a contender. But if you go to the Lakers, you become an actual favorite.
A possible dynasty for a few years.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's why I think Kawhi is going to realize, look, I might not like some of the scrutiny that comes with it, but that's going to come anywhere. And if you're trying to win championships, scrutiny is going to follow you. And you want to put yourself in the best position. For me, unless you find a way to land on Golden State's roster, you need to go to the Lakers and play with LeBron James and Kyrie, because I'm calling it out. Kyrie is going to be a Laker. Man. It's going to happen. I don't know about Anthony Davis. They may not be able to trade for him now, but I do think that Anthony Davis wants to go to the Los Angeles Lakers.
How sweet would it be, though, to see LeBron, Kyrie, and Ty Lue win championships with 2 different franchises?
That would be amazing.
That would have never happened before. That's never happened before. So that'd be incredible, man.
We can go on this forever. I love talking NBA, and there's a lot coming on. Actually, towards the end of the show, we're going to give our official finals predictions on who we see playing, how long it's going to go, and then we're going to give our MVP and Rookie of the Year as well. But in our next segment, we're bringing it back home.
Yeah.
We're coming back to the Chiefs. There has been a really ridiculously hot take that I'd like to diffuse really quick tonight in regards to
it's a funny one too.
Put him in a coffin.
In regards to one Travis Kelce and the potential of him being traded. We'll get back to that after this. Located in the historic Westport district, Modern Man Supply Company is your Kansas City's new home for men's retail. From apparel to pomade and home goods to beard care, they offer a wide range of men's products from independent companies from around the world. Follow them at Modern Man Supply Company on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Casey Hard Goods is the brainchild of local Kansas City degenerate Scott Reinerson. Born from a passion of old materials and custom designs, specializing in reclaimed wood burned art and signs, and upcycled leather wallets and accessories. Follow Casey Hard Goods on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Back at it again on the Spoken Podcast for segment 2. I am your host, Lance Twidwell, here with my guys, Eddie Ortiz,
yo.
Trevor Twidwell.
What up?
We're going to get into some Chiefs talk, but real quick before we get into that, I do want to, and we are here in the KC Beardco studios. I want to congratulate Duke's forward Zion Williamson for winning the Wooden Award, the 2019 Wooden Award. He is one of 3 freshmen to ever do it. The other 2 are Kevin Durant and Anthony Davis. So congratulations to Zion Williamson. Coming back from the injury, I don't think it was as severe as we thought it was, luckily, because he will be the consensus number 1 overall pick when the time comes that he will be drafted. Eddie thinks for some damn reason he's going to stay in Duke, and I'm going to bet him $300 on that. I'm going to be Venmo'd $300 when the draft comes and Zion's putting on a Knicks cap.
See, the thing is, I don't want to be put on the L.
It's going to be a fat ass L because I'm telling you. Okay,
I haven't placed the bet.
So are you
yet.
backing down? Are you backing down?
I never.
You gotta say with the chest, bro.
Are you backing down?
I never made a bet.
Okay, all right, Debo. So I left it as a teaser on the last segment, at the end of the last segment, that there was, and I'm not going to say this person by name, and we're not going to talk about this person by name.
Why not?
Because I don't want to give him that credence.
It's good.
I respect people that work with him. Let me just put it like that. But there was something said this week by a certain radio host in Kansas City that I cannot for the life of me understand. Now, I try my best to be open-minded. I try my best to understand where people are coming from with their takes because I feel everyone deserves that. Even if I don't agree with what you say, and even if I don't really like you as a person, I feel like you deserve the respect to at least be heard out. My point is this. When I was driving in my car early one morning, I heard someone saying that the Chiefs should consider, or more, actually, they should trade their tight end, Travis Kelce, who currently is the best tight end in football, and it's not even a question.
3 years left in his contract.
And is the number 1 target for your quarterback.
Here's the thing.
Continue.
If this team was not on the verge of winning not only one Super Bowl, but several, and if Travis Kelce wasn't in the absolute prime of his career, if Travis Kelce didn't have an absolute bargain for a contract at not only his position and the value that it presents in the NFL today, but for what he provides for this team every single year, year in and year out. If that wasn't the case, I might entertain the thought of trading Travis Kelce for picks,
possibly
for multiple players and picks, some sort of combination.
Right.
But here's the thing, man. That makes absolutely no sense with the current construct of the Chiefs. The Chiefs were literally one offsides play from being in the Super Bowl, which a Super Bowl I believe they would have won. They would have got that revenge on the Los Angeles Rams. And Travis Kelce had everything to do with the Chiefs having as great of a season they had. He had everything to do with Patrick Mahomes having the biggest season we've seen maybe in NFL history. And to sit here and think that somehow the Chiefs are going to get better or have a better chance at winning Super Bowls by trading away their player like that in his prime is absolute absurdity. And I can only compute it as you're trying to gain attention for yourself.
But this draft is deep in tight ends. There's so much depth and tight end talent in this draft, because when they're when they get drafted, they're gonna be good. That's how it works. Whoever gets drafted is good.
But the thing is that you can't get rid of the best tight end in the league
on the best offense
for a prospect that we don't even know how they're going to turn out in the NFL. Do you know what I mean? Like, okay,
not even Belichick did something bad ballsy.
Like if he was 35, 33, 32, I would consider it. I'd be like, you know what? I'll be open to a potential talk of a trade. But that's not the case.
But like I said, even Belichick, like that does the most unconventional, like out of the nowhere kind of moves, would never have traded Gronk in his prime.
Well, we say that, but they did try to trade him to the Lions last year.
Yes, last year. But I'm saying in his prime. Gronk's been out of his prime for a long time.
In 2011, there's no chance.
I know they're the same age, but Gronk's been out of his prime for a while now.
He hasn't had a great season since 2011.
That's what I'm saying. So him trading him then makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm saying when Gronk was Gronk in like 2012, 2013, that time. Yeah. That would make absolutely no sense because he was the crutch, for that offense. Yeah. But it just makes no
sense. Travis Kelce is
hilarious.
Currently 29 years old. He will be 30 this year.
He's getting better, really.
He has 3 years left on his deal. He has a total of about $23 million left complete on his deal for the next 3 years. He's averaging $7.5 million in base salary
for elite play.
Now with his signing bonuses and things like that, he's going to be making about $10+ million a year. The cap hit will be around $10 million a year for the next 3 years, but I think it comes right under $30 million in total. So with that, and you've seen the production that Travis Kelce has had, that is an absolute bargain, especially when you consider the fact you're still not even paying Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
Second of all, Travis Kelce, I think we talked about this when I was comparing him and Gronk a couple weeks ago. Travis Kelce has not missed a single game due to injury since 2013 in his rookie year. So you're talking about a guy who's not only absolutely productive,
The Iron Man.
Yeah, he absolutely produces consistently, even with a guy like Alex Smith, who is completely inferior to Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
But the fact that he's on the field every single week, giving you his body. Now, here's the other thing. I ran some numbers today, and this at first it won't sound like it's a big deal, but it actually is when you hear the other side of it. The Chiefs are 19-13 when Travis Kelce has fewer than 5 receptions in a game. Now you think, oh, that's pretty good. 19-13, that's a good record.
They don't need him.
But here's the thing. When he has more than 5 catches or more, yeah, they're 35-14. So they are a much better team when Travis Kelce produces.
They're about the same.
Here's the other part when it comes to touchdowns. Now, Travis Kelce hasn't had a lot of touchdowns in his career, but those numbers are starting to go up. Had a career year the year before this year, and then had an absolutely career year.
Top that one.
Yeah.
Yep.
The Chiefs are 20-6 when Travis Kelce has a touchdown in his career. Now think about that for a second. You are winning literally 75% of your games when this guy gets a touchdown, not 150 yards.
Those are the guys you trade.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I don't want to sit here and entertain this bullshit any more than I need to. I just need to address it because we had a lot of Chiefs fans. I had personal messages. We had stuff in the Spoken on the Facebook group. I had stuff on Twitter that people were asking me, what are your thoughts on this? I'm telling you right now, do not even entertain that thought because I know the Chiefs aren't.
Yeah.
You do not trade away the best tight end in football in his prime when you are on the verge of winning Super Bowls, not Super Bowl, not a chance. You're on the verge of it. To trade away one of your 5 best players is absolutely fucking stupid.
Especially when he's not affecting the cap, nearly barely at all.
None of it makes sense.
So
he will be out of his contract, this current contract at 31 years old. Man. He could still very well be a very effective player at that time. And even if he's not, you can then talk about it at that point. At this point, don't even come in with this bullshit because that is absolute absurdity. Yeah. Do not. I don't care if you're paid to do your job. I mean, do better because that's bullshit.
Trading him for picks makes no sense. I mean, you're going to trade him, better get some kind of elite player out of that package. Trade him with a pick and him or something for a package. But I mean, obviously, I'm not for that either way. But
what team is going to be able to afford to give a lot of?
But I mean, either way, we can still draft a young tight end in this draft as his replacement in a couple of years. That makes sense. We can still do that without trading him. It makes no sense to do that.
That's what the Chiefs need to do. People don't need to freak out when we go and draft a tight end in like the first 3 rounds.
We need to do that. We better draft a tight end somewhere
because we don't have anybody behind Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
And what better odds than Travis Kelce bringing up this rookie?
Yeah,
and
it would be
it would just be the best.
It would be the
best option.
It would be one thing if the Chiefs already had a TJ Hawkinson on this roster. Well, then you could talk about something like that, like where you can entertain that. That's not the case.
And I've been the guy too that talked about how important Tyreek is to Patrick Mahomes, which obviously is valid. But the number one target passing game in this offense, as far as targets and reception, is Travis Kelce.
Right,
he's the guy. He's usually the first or second read on almost every single play. Tyreek is the guy that Pat goes to when the play breaks down and he needs somebody that can run out of the route and get open downfield because he's that versatile and very good at getting space. But the guy we're looking for in the red zone, in the end zone, and underneath defenses when the plays break down, or that's Kelce, and he's one of the best after the catch. So you don't trade guys like that, man. Yeah. You just don't.
We just wanted
makes no sense.
I really wanted to just address that real quick. We don't need to keep going on at that because it's absolutely stupid. And this person that brought this up and doubled down on it this week just really needs to just shut his mouth.
Yeah, we should just name the whole L section after him.
Yeah, it may or may not be, but I want to move on to an actual real conversation.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of speculation. Jamaal Charles recently came out on the radio and he was asked a question about does he think he had a Hall of Fame career? And he says he believes that because of what he did in the time that he played. Now, there's been a lot of Chiefs fans asking this question. I've seen a lot of back and forth, a lot of people that were on both sides of this. I'm gonna say this. When Jamaal Charles was at his best and when he was healthy, it's hard for me to name over the last 15 years 10 running backs better than him. Just I like that I can say with all confidence they were better than Jamaal Charles at football because he better. In his time, you have to understand, like looking back and when he was at his absolute best, the Chiefs were at their absolute worst. I mean, they had decent seasons. Like in 2010, they made the playoffs. They were a good team. They were 10-6. They won the division. They were a good team, but then they got absolutely exposed in the playoffs against the Ravens in Arrowhead. It was an absolute embarrassment.
Yep.
But Jamaal Charles,
though, too, yeah.
Jamaal Charles, once he got his opportunity, I believe 2009 was his first year as a starter. You saw Jamaal Charles immediately make impact I think we've ever seen in Kansas City. Now, Priest Holmes was an incredible running back. I love Priest Holmes. We've talked about him on the show before. Had the greatest 3-year stretch we've ever seen in NFL history by a running back. Even in a season, I believe it was 2005. That Priest Holmes had only 8 games played, had 14 touchdowns. That's just insane. Like most running backs today don't get 14 rushing touchdowns. He got it in half a season. Despite that, let's take away some things here for a second. Priest Holmes played behind arguably the greatest offensive line we've ever seen in AFC history.
Yep.
So he had a significant advantage there. Jamaal Charles not only did not have the greatest offensive line we've seen in Kansas City and AFC history, he had one of the worst.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, he had horrible coaching. He had a horrible quarterback in Matt Castle and backups like Brady Quinn and Tyler Palko. He had to deal with all that shit. Yet he has currently, as it stands, the highest yards per carry average in NFL history at 5.4 yards per carry. That's over Jim Brown at 5.2. That's over Gale Sayers and Barry Sanders at 5 flat.
Yep.
So for him to be able to do all those things, despite all the inefficiencies and all the crap and chaos around him, that speaks volumes to his greatness. Jamaal Charles was an all-time great when he was at his best. The problem, though, is that Jamaal Charles cannot string together consistent seasons like that. He only had 2 to 3 great seasons in his entire career. Now, I will give him this. He is one of the 3 running backs to ever have 5 1,000-yard seasons while averaging over 5 yards per carry. So, again, even when he was battling injuries, he was still effective.
Well, you got to look at, too, his yards from scrimmage, because not only was the guy an absolute monster in the running game and being able to create plays out of nowhere. I mean, we've seen it where there's like a pile of bodies and all of a sudden the Jamaal just pops out the other end and just taking off somehow. It's just unbelievable. But his ability to play in the passing game as well was a key to his success as just an overall player. So his yards from scrimmage is extremely impressive during his 4 or 5 year peak. And I mean, as far if you look at overall in NFL history, there might not be, outside of maybe Barry Sanders, a better running back ever to have the ball in his hands and just go out there and make a play. I mean, we see it time and time again. We've had some bad teams, but you get the ball in his hands, anything can happen. You know, it's the guy, man. As a Chiefs fan, I say yes, he's a Hall of Famer, because it's hard for me to get past that bias, just because it's so heightened in my mind just from watching him live and watching him growing up. You know, but I feel like the lack of postseason success, the injury, riddled years, him missing the years due to ACLs and bad knees. I feel like that could, as far as a national outlook, I think might keep him out. But I think in time, I think it might soften up. He might make his way in there. But just the lack of postseason success. We've seen lesser talented guys make the Hall of Fame just because they've had great teams and great postseason success. So I think that might be the key cog to maybe keep him out of it, man.
Well, that was going to be my question. I was going to ask you guys, do you think he is an NFL Hall of Famer? So I got your answer.
Mine's yes in time.
Okay. So you
maybe
think,
not for a while.
Within the next several years he'll get it? Okay.
Yeah.
So Eddie, okay, so you believe, if you want to expand on it, go ahead.
I believe he like you said, he was great, but he wasn't consistent. That's the thing. And also those injuries. He wasn't consistent because of his injuries. Exactly.
Right.
So like those injuries.
When he's on the field healthy, he was he's ridiculous.
Like, what was it, the 2 ACL back-to-back?
Yeah.
Pretty much seasons.
Pretty much lost 2 years.
Exactly.
2 whole seasons. The last one, he was never the same after that either. Yeah. So
it's just the consistency that he can keep. He is a great running back, and obviously the 5.4 yards per carry in his career are the best in NFL.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something to be impressed about.
Absolutely.
But a first ballot NFL Hall of Famer, don't think so. Maybe down the road when, like different players start coming into the Hall of Fame that are, not that great, but are good enough to make it to the Hall of Fame. Maybe his name will slip in there. But
it's about legacy too, man, because what you're remembered for, and most players, Hall of Fame players, are always remembered for their postseason moments.
And he didn't have those.
Unfortunately, Jamaal just doesn't have those moments, man, and it sucks because he deserves them. If he would have been on the Patriots team or some of these great Pittsburgh teams we've seen, put him in any of these teams that were in the postseason consistently, the guy would have made some ridiculous plays, but he was stuck in some bad positions and had some unfortunate injuries, man, and it sucks.
Here's the thing. I really want to believe that Jamaal Charles can make the Hall of Fame because, again, I'm a very biased fan myself.
Yeah.
I think there are two things that Chiefs fans in particular hold on to when it comes to Jamaal Charles. It's the fact that obviously he has the highest yards per carry average, which is absolutely valid, and that is something that you have to respect.
Might never get topped.
May never get topped again. But here's the thing. Outside of that, let's be real. We won it because we are just Chiefs fans.
Yeah, for sure.
So what I did is I did some research this week, and I looked at every single Hall of Fame running back in the modern era, and I actually kind of brought it down because modern era goes even back to the 50s. I actually brought it up to 1970 because I feel it's more of a fair assessment because the game changed so much. I looked at the numbers at every single running back in those eras. And outside of Earl Campbell and Terrell Davis that have made the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, Terrell Davis is the one I think
every single one of those running backs that made the Hall of Fame had at least 11,000 rushing yards and at least 65 rushing touchdowns.
But Terrell Davis's peak was so small.
Right. And that's okay, that's what I'm saying.
His playoff success
so
is what
they
gets
had
him in.
they had at least 11,000 rushing yards and at least 65 rushing touchdowns. And that's how they made the Hall of Fame. Jamaal Charles has barely 7,000 rushing yards and only has 44 rushing touchdowns.
Right.
So even with Earl Campbell having 9,407 yards and 74 touchdowns. He has 1,844 more yards and 30 more rushing touchdowns than Jamaal Charles. Terrell Davis, I'm glad you brought that up because Terrell Davis is the one that you actually can compare Jamaal to because this is crazy.
3 big years.
Everybody thinks Terrell Davis had this incredible career.
No.
You know that he didn't even have 1,000 yards until his 5th season?
Yeah, he was just an absolute monster in the playoffs.
He had back-to-back seasons of less than 400 rushing yards.
Yeah.
People don't even realize that about Terrell Davis. But here's the thing. Terrell Davis, everybody thought he had this incredible career. He only has 44 more rushing yards and 16 more touchdowns than Jamaal.
Right.
Now, Jamaal Charles missed in his 11-year career 55 games.
Yeah.
That's a lot of games.
Yeah.
You give him half of those, he blows Terrell Davis's numbers out of the water.
And then, look at the receiving yards too.
Yes,
I mean,
so
receiving touchdowns.
He was way more versatile than Terrell Davis. I would even go as far as to say I think Jamaal was a better running back than Terrell Davis.
He's he's definitely more talented, versatile talent for sure.
Here's what separates them.
Yeah.
Success.
Yes.
Yeah.
Terrell Davis not only won back-to-back Super Bowls, which people do look at unfairly, because if you put Jamaal on those teams back then, he's going to win Super Bowls.
Put Jamaal with John Elway.
But Terrell Davis also won a Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah.
So
he carried that team.
You have to look at legacies here. You have to look at that Jamaal never had, like you said, Trevor, he never had those moments of greatness where we're going to look back in NFL history and say,
had the opportunities, man.
You remember those times where this guy did this, you remember this guy did that. Those are Hall of Fame moments. And unfortunately, Jamaal never got those. He does have the yards per carry average, which he will forever have.
Yeah.
He'll always be up there at least. But outside of that, guys, he is simply not a Hall of Famer. I want to believe it, but he was too hurt too often. He missed too many games in his career. And I think that is the ultimate detriment because when he was great, he was great. Yeah. But it did not last. And that's the unfortunate thing for Jamaal Charles. And unfortunately, I don't believe there's any real chance he's ever going to make the Hall of Fame. As much as I'd like to see it happen, I don't think he's got the numbers, and he sure as shit doesn't have the success.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm going to leave it, guys. I don't want to sit here because I feel like the further we go, it's going to end up becoming a bashing session. But I think that more than anything, to me, he's the greatest running back the Chiefs have ever had. I think that he is. I think Priest Holmes had more success and he had a better 3-year stretch than Jamaal.
Yeah.
But even though Jamaal missed a lot of games and he had times where he was not as good as he should have been, I guess you would say, to be able to put up more rushing yards and more yards per carry behind such inferior talent.
Yeah.
And up front around him, he never had a quarterback as good as Trent Green.
I mean, could you
maybe when Alex Smith first came around, you can maybe do the comparison.
Yeah.
But he never had a Dick Vermeil. He never had Al Saunders calling his plays. He never had Willie Roaf, Will Shields, John Tate, Casey Wigman, Brian Waters. He never had those types of offensive linemen.
Just imagine Jamaal with this offensive scheme in his prime. Imagine him with this offensive setup with Pat and having teams having to worry about not only him, but Tyreek and Kelce and Sammy Watkins. I mean, can you imagine the damage the guy would do? I mean, it sucks, man. It sucks that it was a timing thing for him that, in the situational type of deal. But I think in time it could happen, but it's pretty grim for me as far as it actually happening. But I'm holding out hope, and it's just sad to see him coming out and saying, himself having to come out and say, I think my numbers do it. And then in the back of our minds are kind of like, yeah, we love you, man. But it's like, yeah, probably not. It just sucks seeing that such a good guy, done so many good things in his life, on and off the field. I mean, it's just, yeah. Part of me wants to really say he will, but it's hard to really believe that for sure.
Yeah. So. Well, I wish Jamaal the best. I mean, if he makes the Hall of Fame, awesome. Yeah. I don't see it happening. It just after looking at the numbers, it doesn't add up. He doesn't have the legacy. It's going to be really unfortunate. I think
it's tough getting in the Hall of Fame, man.
He will forever be one of those what ifs, and that's unfortunate because I think he deserved better because Jamaal was just so great when he was great. So that's where we're going to leave that one. When we come back, we're going to stay with the Chiefs. We're actually going to talk about Chris Jones and this contract that we're talking about. A lot of Chiefs fans have been discussing this one as well, and it's been a hot topic in Kansas City. To be honest with you, I'm surprised to say there's been some pushback about what his value is and if the Chiefs should actually give him the contract. So we will get to that after this. KC Hemp Company, your most trusted CBD provider in Kansas City, shipping nationwide. Ancient plant for a new age health. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram at KC Hemp Co. Commandeer is Kansas City's alternative apparel brand. They make unique Kansas City-themed clothing and accessories with a countercultural apparel. Find them online at commandeerbrand.com or follow them at commandeerbrand on Instagram or Facebook. Back at it again on the Spoken Podcast for Segment 3. I am your host, Lance Twidwell, here with my guy, Eddie Ortiz.
Yo.
And Trevor Twidwell.
What's up?
We are here in the KC Beard Co. studios giving you guys what we got. There's a lot of topics we've already touched on. It's just got done actually talking about Jamaal Charles and his Hall of Fame chances. We talked about the absurdity of trading one Travis Kelce. We've touched on a few things tonight, guys, and we're going to keep it going. Actually, we're going to stick with the Chiefs. But before we do that, I do want to give a shout out to the Royals' second baseman and pretty much a utility player, if you really want to break it down. Whit Mayfield actually just recently broke all-time great. I mean, the best Royals player ever, George Brett's record of 30 straight games with a hit.
That's impressive.
31 games he actually broke it, and you have to give him respect for that because that's something that most Royals fans thought that maybe would never be broken because George Brett owns pretty much all the hitting records,
especially in the modern era. Baseball,
yeah,
pitchers being as good as they are now. It's
the Royals should absolutely think about trading Whit Mayfield.
I think that would be great for the Royals.
Something I heard.
Trade them all.
Something I heard about this about the situation with Whit Mayfield because again, I want to give him all the respect that he deserves. But there has been 45 players that have had a 30-game or more hitting streak in the MLB history. And I feel like I'm going to I'm going to feel like I'm disrespecting by saying this, but I'm just going to give you the numbers and I'll leave it at that. Of the 45 that have been since 1920, which is what they would consider, I guess, the live ball era of time, George Brett has the highest batting average during a 30-game hitting streak in MLB history. Do you guys want to guess who has the lowest?
Whit.
That'd be Whit Merrifield. Now, I'm not saying because I believe he's hitting right at 326 or 327 currently.
That's
crazy.
Which is very, very good. You can win a batting title with that type of average.
Yeah, George Brett was pretty good.
But what I'm saying, we have to put it into context here. He broke the record, granted, but the fact is George Brett was batting over he was batting, I think, 458 during his 30-game hitting streak. So, I mean, we're talking about a guy who was batting in the mid 400s.
Yeah.
Whereas Whit's very respectable batting average, no question about it. But let's put this into context. If we're going to try to do the comparison, there really isn't one. So hats off to Whit, but George Brett is still the man when it comes to these types of streaks, when it comes to these types of accolades. So moving right along, though, we're going to get back to the Chiefs. There's been two contracts that we thought for sure that the Chiefs were going to give out. One was going to be with wide receiver Tyreek Hill, which we still don't know for certain what's going on with that. And we do await whatever quote unquote news or fake news is going to come out about that.
Waiting.
So we'll put that on the shelf. The other contract is one with the defensive end, Chris Jones.
Yep.
Now, I thought it was a foregone conclusion that everyone was on board with giving Chris Jones a max deal, giving him the contract that was going to lock him up for the next 5+ years.
Yeah.
And I think we all agreed this was a common sense thing.
Absolutely.
Well, unfortunately, guys, it's not. There have been several radio personalities in Kansas City, and there's been a lot of fans, actually, surprisingly enough, that have stated that they're kind of concerned about it. I even had a guy that actually does a podcast in Kansas City as well that I respect a lot, that was saying that he feels like this is the type of move that got Dorsey fired. And for me, I'm kind of confused about it because of the fact that there's so many reasons why it's so common sense you pay Chris Jones at this point. One, he's 25, which means he's just entering the peak of his career. Two, he's literally never missed a game in his career. Let me give you guys a couple other things real quick. Well, I'm going to give you one specific reason. Since Chris Jones has been in the league, only Aaron Donald. I was
going to say, outside Aaron Donald, he's the best at that position.
Only Aaron Donald and Calais Campbell have more sacks than Chris Jones at the interior defensive end position.
Yeah, why pay him? I mean,
so he doesn't need it.
Aaron Donald might go down as the greatest interior defensive lineman we have ever seen.
Yep.
He legitimately could be better than Reggie White.
One-man wrecking crew, for sure.
Calais Campbell is one of the greatest of his generation. He has been consistently great.
Yep.
Okay? And to sit here and look at those numbers and think, oh, well, that's not enough. Okay, well, I'm going to give you guys something else because I also found this. Of the current 5 highest paid interior defensive linemen in the NFL, only 2 of them have more sacks over the last 3 seasons than Chris Jones. It's DeMarcus Lawrence and Frank Clark. Not J.J. Watt, Olivia Vernon, not Trey Flowers. Those are the 5 highest paid players at that same position. So he's in the top 3 amongst the top 5 highest paid interior defensive linemen when it comes to sacks since 2016, which is his rookie year.
Not worth it.
Guys, he has been he's been an absolute beast since he's been in the league. Now, obviously last season was his biggest year.
Yeah.
No doubt.
And I don't expect, I think we talked about this last week.
Yeah.
I don't expect him to have 15 plus sacks.
It's going to be a little regression.
It's going to be a little bit different, but see, this is what's so great about Chris Jones. He is so good at disrupting the passing game, not just getting to the quarterback, but disrupting the lanes.
And he demands a double team.
Yes.
Opens up other opportunities for other people.
So the market right now is set around $20 million a year that Chris Jones would currently get for a 5-year contract. For me, that's common sense.
Yeah.
I don't see what the actual issue is because although DeMarcus Lawrence he plays a little bit more on the outside than Chris Jones does technically, I think that their value does equate when you look at both teams' situations.
Right.
Because Chris Jones right now is if you guys want to think about it, besides Tyrann Mathieu, he's the only real sure thing on this defense right now.
And 2, how committed he is to be here, to this city and to this team, and he's still working on being. He talks about how he's working on getting a 6-pack. I know it's funny, it's silly, but the dude's constantly trying to condition his body to be at peak performance. And he said he wants to be a lifer. He wants to be a Kansas City Chief for the rest of his. I know people can say, "Oh, he's just trying to get paid." He's trying to say that to get paid. But I want to know what changed in the last few weeks in these people's minds. We were all. I felt like you said. I felt like everyone was on board to pay him, especially now. It should be even easier to say, "Yeah, let's pay the guy with this Tyreek Hill news," because Tyreek Hill might not even get paid now. So why would we not even pay the guy that's next to Aaron Donald is the best at the position?
Well, and it
doesn't make any sense.
I heard a lot of bitching this whole week about the moves the Chiefs have made. The question was,
or haven't made.
Are they better now than they were, before the season ended? For me, it's like this: they got rid of all the dead weight. They've gotten players, like I said, that fill great in key positions, and I think they're going to only get better. I think they got one more trade in them, and I think they're going to draft a lot of defense. But again, let me reiterate something. Chris Jones has been the only consistent piece left on this defense. Tyrann Mathieu is going to ball out, but Tyrann Mathieu wasn't on this team last year. So Chris Jones is the centerpiece, the center focal point of this defense, even with Tyrann Mathieu on the roster.
And he is absolutely perfect for Spagnuolo.
Yeah,
absolutely.
He has the body size.
Yes.
Yeah,
he's
the
perfect for the
durability.
scheme, man.
You
he's
can
big,
move him around.
Big hands, long arms,
Yeah,
strong
he
as hell.
disrupts the offense,
He's
the opposing
perfect for the
offense in
scheme.
so many ways.
Absolutely.
For me, this is the most common sense move. I don't understand how or why. And so I even tried to play devil's advocate just to make this interesting. And I'm telling you guys, I couldn't find anything because the Chiefs have more than enough cap space to make this happen. Because it's funny. We hear people bitching about they haven't spent enough money to validate cutting, trading D Ford, cutting Justin Houston, letting go of Eric Berry, that we haven't justified that. You're telling me if you locked up arguably the best player at his position, not named Aaron Donald, that's not spending money wisely? Think about that for a second. You are sitting on an absolute gold mine. You are only a piece or two away from this team being in the absolute favorite to win the Super Bowl, and they might be anyway. And you're telling me I've had to endure. Think about this for a second. I've had to endure listening all week to people talking about trading Travis Kelce, and we shouldn't pay Chris Jones. Like, what in the hell is going on right now?
Do they want to see Chris Jones walk? Like,
he's
no doubt in my mind he might become a Hall of Famer. Like, there's no doubt in my mind.
So we got
he's shown me so far. There's no doubt.
Right?
Why in the hell would the Chiefs not pay this guy? Why?
Yeah, we got people that are
why?
paid to talk on the radio and platforms that say the window for our Super Bowl opportunity is now, but in the same breath, we're talking about trading our number one option in the passing game, Travis Kelce, and then not paying our number one defensive player. That doesn't. I mean, how do those two coexist when you want to say that our Super Bowl chances are now, but then you wanted to dump the two most valuable guys on both sides of the field outside of the quarterback? It just. I mean, you lock up Chris. It only makes sense to lock up Chris Jones for the next 4 or 5 years, and then if you want to dump him later on, out when he's nearing the end of his prime, fine. The guy's how old?
25.
20. Yes. I mean, it only
25.
makes sense to let him go at 29, 30.
He's
Fine.
just not
Lock him up
getting out of his
until
rookie
then.
deal.
And it would make
Squeeze
total
the best
sense.
years out of him now.
It would make total sense to be worried about the contract dispute if, in fact, he actually missed a single game over the last 3 years.
It isn't extremely good and maybe the best at his position outside of Aaron Donald.
Aaron fucking Donald.
Yeah.
You're
And
not
look how
talking
much he
about-
got paid. I mean,
Exactly.
it's
You're
just
not talking about just any other player. You're
Right.
talking about Aaron fucking
okay. Aaron Donald sets the standard,
Yes.
right? For pay and for performance.
Yeah, exactly.
And Chris Jones is 1A to his or 1B to his 1A, literally. So, and you're going to talk about not paying him, and he's the best defensive player we've had since I can't even remember, man.
If you guys want to hear my
Prime Houston, maybe that one season.
if you guys, if you want to hear my theory as to why this is even a talking point. I mean, you can go with the easy. Well, it's the off season, so they got to have something to talk about.
That would be my opinion.
This is what I think it is, guys.
Bullshit.
Because I've been a Chiefs fan my entire life, and I've seen, how these fans react to every offseason and, during the season, how they react. And I study it and I listen, Eddie, I listen to a lot of talk shows. I listen to a lot of these guys. I want to hear the pulse of my city so I can better understand what is going on around me. I think this city is afraid of actual success. Now, I know that sounds crazy, but I said this even before we ever
It don't sound crazy to me.
Even before we ever drafted Patrick Mahomes, before I even knew who Patrick Mahomes even was, before he was even in college, I've always said that the Chiefs fans were always more afraid of being bad than never being great. And I think that runs across the board, not just when it comes to the quarterback position, because that was obviously the biggest one. That was the monster they had to absolutely slay. They had to slay that one.
And they did.
And they did. My God, did they. But here's the thing. There is still a fear and a paranoia in this fan base and in this city when it comes to the coverage of this team that seems to somehow keep us down. It's unexplainable, but I'll try my best to explain.
It's a defense mechanism.
It's a defense mechanism. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's their way of preparing themselves for pain.
Yep.
And we got to get out of that mindset. Signing guys like Chris Jones is an absolute risk, but it is a necessary and calculated risk because it's so common sense. Like, it is a move that will only help you. Like, let's say Chris Jones never has a season like he just did. Okay. But he has a string of really good ones. Is that a bad contract?
Dude, it's like the analogy of being in a really like abusive or bad relationship, and we just got out of that. And now we feel like we have to self-sabotage because we're in a great relationship now. And it feels too good to be true.
Yeah, exactly. We don't feel
now we feel like we have to
it.
self-sabotage. No, is this good enough? Should we keep Chris Jones? Should we pay him? Should we keep him around? Or it's like we get this like nervous shakiness. We're like a bunch of chihuahuas, is in the corner shaking. And, we see, I feel like a lot of fans self-sabotage, man, because we're so used to mediocrity. We're scared of taking a chance, going all in. Because when have we ever talked about going all in? When was the last time, since I've been alive, I've never talked about Chiefs being all in for the Super Bowl.
Right.
Because we've always been one-sided. We've always had a good offense or a good defense.
Right.
Now that we have the chance to be balanced, you're going to want to get rid of the number one guy in your defense. That makes absolutely no sense to me.
That's I think I think you explained it very well.
Yeah.
we got to get out of that, guys. Like, I don't want to keep overemphasizing on that, but at the same time, I want Chiefs fans to get that. And if there's Chiefs fans listening to this and you
I
still
don't blame you for feeling that way.
if you still have your concerns, if you still feel like there's a reason why you don't want to sign Chris Jones long-term to that kind of money, please comment below when we post this tonight on our Facebook page, The Spoken, or if we tweet it out, please tell us why. I'd love to know the reason. I'm not saying there isn't. I'm just saying I haven't found it. Because as a Chiefs fan and as someone who has studied the value of this player and the market value that he has, I don't see any other way of going about this and it being considered the correct way. So that's where I want to leave it. Unless you guys have any other thoughts on it, I want to leave it right there. Segueing right into something else, I kind of wanted to leave this as a little surprise because this is something Eddie and I were actually going to talk about last week, but we failed to do that. And I actually got called out about that last week on the post.
Here we go.
Yeah, here we go. That's correct, Eddie, because you and I had talked at our office last week before last week's show. And we were talking about Baker Mayfield and how we feel about him. Now, I've left the door open to Baker Mayfield. When he got drafted number 1 overall, I was like, okay, I think this guy's got the talent.
Yeah, I love the kid.
I'm going to reserve my opinion on him because I don't think that the flamboyancy of his attitude is really going to affect him as long as he can back it up. And he did that. Mm-hmm. He goes into Cleveland and he literally changes the infrastructure of a franchise that has been dying for any type of success. Now, they didn't make the playoffs. I believe they only won 7 games last year. But that season was the best season the Browns have had in so long. That was the most exciting football the Browns fans have had in so many years. And it was because of Baker Mayfield. He brought something new to that city. He brought something new to that franchise, and it is so exciting. I'm very happy for them. And John Dorsey, to this point, has done an incredible job. I will give John Dorsey all the credit in the world. He really has put his name on that map. But here we are talking, and Eddie, I think Eddie likes to just get under my skin sometimes, but I think Eddie had a little seriousness to it. I think that there was something to his argument because we did get a little heated when we talked about this because, and I don't want to speak for you, Eddie. I'm going to let you have the floor for a second, but Eddie had mentioned that he believes that Baker Mayfield, thank you, Trevor. Eddie believes that Baker Mayfield, and I'm going to let you defend yourself, obviously, on this because I don't want to put words in your mouth. But from what I remember Eddie telling me was he believes that Baker Mayfield can and is just as good of a football player and quarterback as one Patrick Mahomes. Eddie, the floor is yours.
Get out.
Speak it. And while you're at it,
No, my thing on that was he did not only have one of the best rookie seasons for a quarterback ever, but he obviously did. He broke the touchdown records in only 14 games. He did not play the first 2 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. For you to go to Cleveland, to one of the worst ran franchise in NFL history, and do what you did in your first year, man, I think it's unbelievable. Just like Patrick Mahomes coming into Kansas City, sitting out for a whole year, and then pretty much this being his first full starting season.
MVP season.
Exactly. Yeah. So doing what he did and doing what Baker Mayfield did in with the Browns organization, I just believe that they're both just phenomenal. I know we haven't seen much of Baker Mayfield. We haven't seen much of Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes did win the MVP, and what a way to do it. But I think Baker Mayfield can be just as good of what Patrick Mahomes is. Like I said, just breaking the rookie touchdown record, that's unbelievable with the Browns to fucking say the least. You know what I mean? So that's a huge milestone for Baker Mayfield.
Well, let me ask you a question, because I agree with everything you just said. I think, like I prefaced my entire argument with saying that I think Baker Mayfield is special. And I think he's got what it takes. And I think he will live up to the hype, which is the number 1 overall pick, which is always unfair. What is it that Baker Mayfield does, though, that's just as good as Patrick Mahomes, in your opinion? And do you believe that had Baker Mayfield, because I think we could agree that Patty had better weapons and a better situation around him last year.
Coach.
But do you, first of all, what is it that you think he does that's just as good, if not better, than Patty? And 2, do you think that Baker could have had the same season that Patrick had if he was with the Chiefs quarterback instead?
I believe so. The kid has an arm. He has a pretty good arm. I like the way he throws the ball. It's just the way he finds those receivers that are hard to see. You know what I mean? Like the way he just places the ball. Him and Patrick Mahomes just have that fucking that eye where they're like, all right, there they are. I'm throwing it there, and fucking it's always money. So I think they both have their own special talent. So I'm just gonna leave it as they are both just as good as one another. There's still a lot more years to come. One can obviously be way better than the other, and vice versa. So I mean, we would only see. It's only been 1 year for both of them. We'll see what next season is.
It's hard to judge, man, off this one season. And I think this next season is actually the better season to compare because now that he has Odell, there's no excuses. Now he's got an absolutely stacked, maybe even more stacked roster than Mahomes has right now because the running game he has with Kareem Hunt coming in behind Chubb. I mean, he's got Landry and Odell. I mean, he's got a great young tight end in Njoku, who I think is an absolute stud.
If they can both live to their potential. I mean, like I said, it's just one season. We only saw one single season of both of them. We saw Baker Mayfield for 14 games only. We didn't see him an entire season. He could obviously throw for way more touchdowns than that. Not way more, but maybe 3 or 4 more touchdowns than he would. What he had.
I don't see Baker throwing for 15 and 5,000 though. To be honest with you,
he would have been in 40. I'm not saying he would, but I'm saying he's up there, man.
He could
definitely be up there. I mean,
I think the intangibles is what separates
now
Patrick
with the
Mahomes.
weapons that he has. He can be up there.
Patrick Mahomes
will he be
the
up
best
there?
quarterback outside the pocket too. Outside of the pocket, there was no better quarterback in the NFL last year than Patrick Mahomes. And that's what separates. That's what I'm saying. The intangibles. When the play breaks down, there's no panic. I've seen the play break down with Baker and him throw out just an absolute horrible pick or throws it away. But then that's growing pains. The kid's a rookie. He had, like you said, one of the greatest rookie seasons, if not the best we've seen in a long time. But if anything, if I'm looking like in the future and I'm an oracle or a psychic and I'm making my prediction how I see personalities aside, because his personalities don't match up at all. But as far as for trajectory of careers, I see Mahomes as more of an Aaron Rodgers and I see a Baker as more of a Phillip Rivers.
Okay.
As far as the trajectory of their careers, they're both great Hall of Fame quarterback, elite quarterback play. But I think Mahomes definitely has the intangibles, like Aaron Rodgers has the intangibles to when a play breaks down, he can sling it across the field or, make a weird sidearm throw or, throw it in the tightest possible window and make a play, which we've seen Mahomes do, on numerous times.
I love Patrick Mahomes. I love him.
Mm-hmm.
He's great. But you also have those lucky drops that the defenders kept dropping. Those passes that he threw across the field that the fucking cornerback just couldn't get a hold of.
Yeah.
So there was luck in that
Is it
aspect.
luck though? Is that luck though?
I mean,
or is it just something we haven't seen? You got to think of it that way too, man. You can't, you don't want to have a false dichotomy.
It was easy catches, and for the defenders, I mean, obviously,
most quarterbacks can't get that ball there.
I know, but obviously, they're not wide receivers,
I hear
so
you.
they're not expected to catch the ball.
Right.
When you're dropping like just easy drops like that.
Oh, you're talking about the picks that should have been picks.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about like him making some crazy cross-field throws, which you got to give to Patty too.
Because he made those throws. He made some of the throws
like that throw against Baltimore.
Like, come on, Patty, why are you doing that? Like, there ain't nothing.
Like, it should have been a pick, but how the hell did that ball get there?
Exactly.
I hear you.
Look, this is my argument for you because obviously we can look at the raw numbers like we have, and clearly Patty is completely superior to what Baker has been to this point
so far.
There's no debate about it right now. Patty has put up better numbers. He just had one of the greatest, if not the greatest season we've ever seen a quarterback have when it comes to Patrick Mahomes.
First year starter MVP season. That just doesn't happen, man.
Baker Mayfield had the best rookie season we probably have ever seen. I will give you that.
Yeah.
I think that Cam Newton and Russell Wilson, there's comparisons there. Andrew Luck had a really good rookie season. RG3 had a really good rookie season. But overall, I would probably say just because of the stakes and the pressure and the expectations, things like that, I would say Baker, I would give him probably the nod. Here's the difference, though, when it comes to these two quarterbacks. Giving an opinion, first of all, I think that one of them is a transcendent talent, and I think the other one is a superstar talent. I think Baker Mayfield is a superstar talent where he could be a very special player for a very long time, and I think he even has Hall of Fame opportunity. Patrick Mahomes has the opportunity. I'm just going to come out and say it. He has the opportunity to be the greatest quarterback of all time. He has what it takes to be the difference maker no matter who's around him. He has that ability.
That's why I compared him to Aaron Rodgers. Because
Yes.
he has that feel, same feel.
Yes. And so if you look and then see, I always look at the pressure of big games. See, everyone wanted to talk about how the Chiefs didn't win a lot of big games, like when it came to Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football this year, which is just bullshit. But if you look at what Patrick Mahomes did in big games, let's look at against playoff teams. Week 1, he had 256 yards and 4 touchdowns with a 127.5 rating. He then goes to New England. They lose that game, but he has 352 yards, 4 touchdowns with a 110 rating. Then goes into goes into LA again, the Rams. I think that was Sunday Night Football. That was Monday Night Football. I'm sorry, that was Monday Night Football. Has 478 yards and 6 touchdowns with a 117.6 rating. Then goes against Baltimore. Eddie, you and I were at that game against the number 1 defense in the NFL at the time.
Number 1 pass defense.
377 yards, 2 touchdowns with almost a 92 rating. Goes into Seattle, has 273 yards, 3 touchdowns with a 103.4 rating. So he goes against playoff teams and outperforms not only the other quarterback on the other side in most cases, but was going against prolific defenses and high stakes positions and was outperforming even his normal performances. And then you go to Baker Mayfield. He didn't start till week 3. Didn't play a playoff team until week 5. The Baltimore Ravens, where he had 342 yards, but only 1 touchdown, 1 interception with an 81 rating. Then you're talking about going against Kansas City. Played pretty well with 297 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception with a 95 rating. I'll give him that, but the Chiefs had arguably the worst defense in football. Then he goes and plays the Houston Texans. 397 yards, 3 touchdowns, absolutely balled out, but yet managed to only complete. He only had a 75 rating. I don't know how you explain that one. I'm sorry. No, I read that wrong. He had 1 touchdown and 3 interceptions, not 3 touchdowns and the other. It was reversed. It's 1 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. So he really struggled against them.
A lot of yards, but yeah.
And then he finishes the season. This was a pretty rough game for him against Baltimore in Baltimore. Only completing 55% of his passes. He had 376 yards because they were getting smoked at the time, but had 3 touchdowns and 3 picks with a 79 rating. So until Baker Mayfield can prove to me that he can play great football against great teams or playoff teams, I cannot even take that comparison very seriously because of the fact that ignore the raw numbers. Ignore the fact that Patrick had one of the greatest seasons of all time and won MVP. Look at what Patrick Mahomes was able to do against great teams or contender teams as opposed to what Baker did, and then compare them by the two. So in totality, I respect the opinion. I respect what you're trying to say. I do agree with most of what you said about Baker. I think he does have superstar potential. I think he could even win an MVP or 2. I think he's that good. And I do believe that the Browns are going to probably be a really good team for a long time.
It's going to be the Browns and the Chiefs for a while.
Because of him. I do think that the Browns are going to be really good for a long time because of him. But Patrick Mahomes, what ultimately separates him, I believe, is the performances in clutch, the performances when the lights are brightest, and the transcendent talent. I think Patrick Mahomes separates himself from really everyone.
His arm talent is, like you said, is transcendent. His arm talent is on another tier than Baker's. Baker's got arm talent, but he doesn't have the cannon that Mahomes has, and he doesn't have.
And that's not a knock on Baker. That's just a praise of Mahomes.
Barely anyone does we've ever seen. So, but Patrick's ability to throw off any platform and make plays in windows, throwing sidearm no look passes into nearly impossible tight windows. So. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's no brainer for me. It's Patrick, man.
So I'm right and you're wrong, Eddie. Thank you very much.
2-1, you lose.
I'm just saying he has the potential to be.
Absolutely,
100% agree.
I loved Baker coming in this draft.
That was you made some good points for
That's
sure.
what I'm saying. He can be just as good as Patrick Mahomes. So
it's possible.
I'm not saying he's better, but I'm just saying he can be up there.
We'd love to hear your thoughts on that. If anybody's listening and
MVP.
you want to chime in, definitely comment on our posts and let us know what your thoughts are on that. But when we come back, we're going to talk about discount double check. One Mr. Aaron Rodgers.
Guy.
There's been a lot of discussion about him, some really stupid shit that's gone on. But I actually want to ask a different question regarding one Aaron Rodgers about his career and how it's going to end. We'll get to that after this.
Mid-Coast Modern is a Kansas City focus on modern, handmade, and small brands. A resource for design-centric home goods, apparel, jewelry, artwork, and limited edition gifts. We support makers, artists from the Mid-Coast, and bring in goods from makers, artists around the U.S. to offer a unique selection.
This is the Spoken Podcast. Back at it again for segment number 4. We are in the KC Beard Co. studios with my guy, Eddie Ortiz.
Yo.
Trevor Twidwell.
What's up, beautiful people?
We just got done touching on some pretty specific ideas about the Chiefs in regards to the Chiefs, what their moves are going to be with Chris Jones, with Jamaal Charles Hall of Fame opportunities, Travis Kelce, if it's going to be even something they would consider trading, which let's just be honest, it's not going to happen, and several other topics that we've touched on as well. But I actually want to get a little bit outside of Kansas City for a second and talk about one of the most iconic football players of our generation, possibly ever. I mentioned it in a very small, minute way last week when I said that I didn't give two shits about this whole Mike McCarthy versus Aaron Rodgers, if it's true, if it's not type of situation, if, Aaron Rodgers has tried to sabotage his relationship with the new head coach, Matt LaFleur, already, if their general manager has told Aaron Rodgers to not be the problem or not. I don't care about any of that shit because I don't think it's very important when it comes down to football. Yeah. I think Aaron Rodgers will and always does handle his business as a professional and will continue to do so. So I don't want to talk about any of that stuff. I don't care about any of that shit because we could talk about it in circles and it goes nowhere, just like the rest of the media has been doing for the last several weeks. And I do not understand what we're still talking about because Mike McCarthy's not even there in Green Bay anymore.
Ratings.
But here we are. And I want to talk about something that's actually important. I want to talk about the rest of Aaron Rodgers' career as an individual. I want to know how you guys think his career is going to end because I've really thought about it a lot. And for me, he's one of those guys I'm so uncertain about, not because of what I think he's capable of, but what the Packers are going to do to build around him for the next couple of years. But guys, I do think Aaron Rodgers, if healthy, can play at a very high level until he's 40. I really do. I think this with this age of evolution and the way these guys are taking care of their bodies now, the intangibles. I've said all along, I think he's a better overall quarterback than Tom Brady. Yes. He just has not been healthier, and Tom Brady has had a better system around him, better players around him, a better coach. There's no question about that, and so he benefited off of that. However, the knock on Aaron Rodgers is his health. He's been hurt a lot lately, and so I'm concerned about that. As he's now 35 years old. We don't know what he's going to have around him this year. I don't expect this team to be great next season at all. And I'm just very uncertain about this. I usually feel like I have a good grip on what I expect from a player for years to come. If you ask me about several players, I could give you like a 5-year plan. But I really don't know how this is going to go. And I want to get your guys' thoughts first, and then I'll try to accumulate mine out of what you guys have said. And then I feel like we could draw some sort of conclusion of what we think. Trev, I want to start with you on this because I know you've been a big Aaron Rodgers guy. You and I have had a lot of debates because I love Aaron Rodgers too, but you think he's arguably the greatest of all time.
Yeah, as far as football play,
So I want to hear your thoughts on this because I know that this is a very big one for you, man.
Yeah, I mean, he's been my guy. I mean, it's funny because growing up, Brett Favre was my favorite player, him and Tony Gonzalez, but Brett Favre was always my guy as far as quarterbacks go. And then it just so happened to be Aaron Rodgers kind of fell right into the footsteps, and I've loved him since. I love the guy to death, man. I think as far as quarterback play, I don't think I've ever seen him as more of a talented quarterback throwing the football. As far as the rest of his career goes, yeah, I mean, right now, man, he's got Devontae Adams, who I think is a top 10 receiver in this league, is a legitimate number one. Outside of that, man, they've got to protect Aaron Rodgers. He's consistently getting hit, and that leads to his injuries. I mean, yeah, he's getting older. That's the difference between what we saw with Peyton Manning as he aged and what we've seen with Brady as he's aged, what we've seen of Drew Brees as he's aged. They've had protection. They've invested. Aaron Rodgers hasn't had that luxury, man, and it's not fair to him. I think he's more talented than all of them. Some of them may have a better IQ. You can argue that, whatever. I don't think any of them have more talent than Aaron Rodgers, and it's being wasted on injury because he's consistently getting hit. He's always in the top 10 most hit quarterbacks, and it's not fair to him, man. They've got to get some weapons. They have to start by getting at least a legitimate number 2 receiver or maybe drafting a legitimate tight end in this draft. There's a lot of and I think they will. I think his running backs are decent. I think Aaron Jones, when healthy, is a good running back, and then Jamaal Williams is a decent backup to him. But, we've seen Eddie Lacy be a bust. Couldn't control his weight issues, so he's had issues. Jimmy Graham came in and tried to do some things, but he's a corpse now pretty much. I don't know, man. They've got to work on that defense also, too, but the defense is improving. They've gotten rid of a lot of pieces. But this is how I look at Aaron Rodgers. I give him just as much as any other top quarterbacks the chance to win it all every single season, just by him being him. And the numbers he puts in, year out, barring injury. Supposedly last season he played through a fractured leg. I don't know if I believe that or not, or if that's his camp putting that out there. Who knows? I mean, I wouldn't doubt it for a second. The guy's played through numerous injuries and is tough as nails. But it's got to start with protecting him. If you protect him, the guy can make anything happen. We've seen the Hail Mary plays. We've seen the pull out of his ass plays, similar to what we've seen with Mahomes, mimicking those kind of things. Love the guy to death, man. I definitely can see another ring in the future if they build around him. If they do the right things, give him extra pieces to work. I mean, he's been working with nobody's really besides Devontae Adams, man, and it's not fair to him. They got to protect him, number one, and they got to build a decent defense to stop the opposing teams. So that's me.
Aaron Rodgers. Whew. The thing about Aaron Rodgers is he battles too many injuries. I think that's one thing that's going to lead him out of this league sooner rather than later. He, like you said, they supposedly played with a broken foot or whatever. He broke whatever.
Yeah.
But it's just he doesn't have that protection. I just think he's just going to break down, man. To be honest with you, I don't think he's going to be playing till he's 40, 41. His days might be counted. Like, he hasn't shown any improvement ever since his one of his serious injuries last year, that he only played not even half the season, I think. And it's just great quarterback. I love Aaron Rodgers, great quarterback, but Green Bay Packers are not a known team for drafting talent. They're not known for that. They're not known for building around Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, they have one Super Bowl, but other than that, what have they done ever since then? They haven't done anything.
Well, Aaron Rodgers got the bag too, so he's already paid. So they have no choice other than getting some pieces to move on from that. So.
Well, here's the thing. Since he became a starter in 2008, and let me preface my entire argument by saying the Packers have been arguably the luckiest franchise in NFL history when it comes to quarterbacks, because of the fact that you go from, what they had in the past with Bart Starr, and then you go to Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers. I mean, it's just like, wow. Like, how do you manage to get that lucky that often? Yeah. So I think they've definitely benefited off that, because I don't think if they had those guys, if they didn't have Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers all these years, they would be the Browns of the NFC, where they're just constantly winning 4 or 5 games a season and looking for their guy.
Right.
So they definitely lucked out with that. And I agree. Since Aaron Rodgers took over as the starting quarterback in 2008, he has the highest quarterback rating in the NFL. Actually has the highest quarterback rating in NFL history.
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken, he now surpassed Tony Romo for the highest fourth quarter rating in NFL history. Only twice in his entire career has he had more than 10 interceptions. And the last time he did that was in 2010. So his interception, he has the highest touchdown to interception ratio in NFL history. Right. The problem for Aaron Rodgers, like we talked about, is the obvious. He gets injured. In 2013, he missed 7 games with a broken collarbone. And then in 2017, I believe he broke his collarbone again. Anthony Barr hit him, and then he missed 9 games that season. And you saw that the Packers just went downhill when they didn't have him. The thing for me isn't the injuries that I think is going to be the reason that he might have a downfall. I think it's the fact that you're now seeing that the Packers aren't a franchise ready to build around a superstar. And what I mean by that is you've seen that they have lucked out with having Brett Favre, who never missed a game.
Yeah.
Literally never missed a game as a Packer. And then you saw Aaron Rodgers come in and literally play better football. So they weren't in a rush or in a hurry to try to say, you know what, let's build around these guys. They had such greatness they didn't need to in order for them to have success. Even that Packers team that won in 2010, the Super Bowl, if you look at that offense, like you put any other put Tom Brady in that position, they probably would be really good. Mm-hmm. I don't think they win the Super Bowl though, because what Aaron Rodgers did on that, first of all, they were a wild card team. Yep. Okay. They had to go on the road 3 times to win.
One of the most impressive Super Bowl runs ever.
And he goes in there. He goes in there and absolutely that I know which one you're talking about, but I'm talking about 2010.
That's different. Yeah.
In 2010, he goes into Atlanta, the number 1 seed, and beats that ass. A much better team than they were, beats that ass, goes and beats the Steelers in the Super Bowl. That was because of Aaron Rodgers.
That was a great Steelers team.
And it wasn't even a debate. Yeah. You put 30 other quarterbacks on that team, they don't win the Super Bowl, in my opinion. Aaron Rodgers had
Look who he did it
the
with. Too,
most
you know?
unprecedented run I've ever seen in NFL. Eli Manning did it as a wild card. Joe Flacco's
On
done
the back
it.
of that defense,
But those guys were not doing things that Aaron Rodgers was doing with that football. It just wasn't happening. He made Jordy Nelson a borderline Hall of Famer, in my opinion. Like he made Greg Jennings look like an absolute superstar at times.
Right.
He made James Jones. James Jones led the league in touchdowns one year, and then goes to the Raiders. And I don't even know if he had 3 touchdowns the next season. I mean, you're looking at a guy that was absolutely transcendent. For me, when he's at his best, I would say that he's probably the greatest quarterback I've ever seen. The problem, though, is unlike Drew Brees, unlike Peyton Manning, unlike Tom Brady, these other. It's the longevity and the health. Now, I will defend him in the fact what Trevor said. He has not had the protection, so I will give him that. What I fear, though, is what Eddie said. I don't think that his health will be able to sustain because of the Packers, not because of him. I don't think he's injury prone. I don't. I think he's had injuries, but I don't think he's injury prone. I think that he's just had his bad luck. And I think it's because of the fact that I don't believe the Packers have had his best interest in mind. And a lot of people want to talk about his attitude.
Same thing with Brett Favre.
A lot of people want to talk about his attitude, and he doesn't give his best. I think that's complete shit. I think Aaron Rodgers is a very good teammate. I think he's made his mistakes. Greg Jennings came on Colin Cowherd's show this week and said some stuff about how he tried to, get, Aaron Rodgers to talk to him and stuff. But besides all that stuff, my point is when it comes to the football player, I expect Aaron Rodgers to still put up numbers. I just don't think he's going to put up as big a numbers as he has in the past not because of his age, because like I said, I think he can have a long career still. But I think it's because of the fact that the Packers have not been known to sign free agents. They've not been known to draft incredible players around their quarterback. I think that this is going to, unfortunately, end in a way that we wouldn't like to see happen because of the fact that he plays for them. Now, if he played for a better franchise, I would be with Trevor and say that I think there's another ring in the balance here. I do not expect him to even get close to another Super Bowl, unfortunately, because he's that great. And I think he can get them as far as he can, as far as getting them into the playoffs again. But when it comes to matchups, when it comes to, having Aaron Rodgers have players around him that he can rely on, I do not see it. Hopefully I'm wrong. But as it currently stands, I think his career is going to end with 1 Super Bowl, a ton of numbers, probably still the greatest quarterback rating of all time, probably still the best touchdown interception ratio because of how accurate he is. I just don't think that he's going to have more success when it comes to team success.
I think he's one offensive piece away from being a legitimate contender because right now he has Devontae Adams, who I think is the best receiver he's ever had. I think he's better than Jordy Nelson as far as talent. Jordy, like you said, he made Jordy Nelson into what he was. Jordy Nelson, was a decent college player, came from, playing corner and became an elite, sort of elite wide receiver within that system. It's hard for me to count the guy out, man. We've seen him time and time again. Yeah, this last season was hard to watch. He was you can just tell he wasn't not even 80% himself. So, but I think him and Devontae Adams, and they get another, if they draft a really, really good tight end or another, because there's a lot of good offensive talent in this draft as far as receivers go. If they get, a top end or maybe make some moves, I'm not sure. I just think it's hard for me to see Aaron Rodgers being Aaron Rodgers and not being a threat to getting hardware. I just don't. It's hard for me to even see that being, because this year was an anomaly because he just wasn't himself. Yes, he was playing every week, but the team was banged up. He was banged up, and none of the running backs could stay healthy. The offensive line was atrocious. He was constantly getting hit and still getting up and playing.
But are they going to get better?
That's what I'm saying. That's
the point.
I think they can. I think
25
the coach
touchdowns
changed,
and 2 interceptions and missed the playoffs.
Right. I know what I'm saying. But that's what makes me. That's why I don't want to give up yet, because how much worse can it really get from last year?
A lot worse.
I don't know. I don't know if it can.
Okay,
last year was bad.
Remove
man.
Aaron Rodgers from this team as it currently stands. Are they a 5-win team? Even that?
No, I think they'll be more than that. I think they'll win.
No,
at least
I'm saying you take Aaron Rodgers off the team
off
right
the
now.
team. Okay, no, absolutely not. No. I didn't hear your full question. My bad.
So you could make the case that Aaron Rodgers is the best football player in the NFL. You could make that case.
Absolutely.
Okay, but you put him on. I would say they're a top 5 team in the draft this next season without Aaron Rodgers. You put him on that team. I have a hard time believing that team is one piece away from being a contender.
No.
That's my point, Trevor. I think
that's
they have
how
a
good. That's how good I think he is when he's healthy. There's nobody that can lead a team.
He's good, but he can't carry a team that has no talent besides him.
Compare them to an AFC team. This is my comparison. I think they're the Raiders. Devontae Adams is the Antonio Brown of their team, right?
Yeah.
And they have a bunch of nobodies on their rosters, right?
Yep.
Okay, so put Aaron Rodgers on the Raiders right now. Are they a playoff team?
No.
No, they are not.
They are not.
They are not a playoff team. He
There's
might
no
put up
way.
numbers. They do not have a run game.
Brown,
They do not have an offensive line, and they do not have a defense.
Raiders defense wasn't that bad last year.
They were the
wasn't that
worst in
bad.
pass defense or pass
Yeah,
rush.
their pass defense was.
They were awful.
Yeah, they couldn't hit the quarterback, but they honestly weren't as bad as they expected them to be. But anyways, that's all. Yeah, I mean, yeah, they may not be.
I just don't trust
playoff
Green Bay.
team.
I just don't trust Green Bay to build around Aaron Rodgers.
That is true, though. I like the point you made about the quarterback talent that Green Bay's always had, kind of masking the inability of the franchise itself. I never actually thought of it that way. That actually makes a lot of sense because we've always known them to have Hall of Fame level quarterback play. So we've never really seen that franchise really struggle in that area. So I mean, maybe.
But see,
Maybe.
even as great as Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers were, they only have two Super Bowls.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that's insane to think. When your franchise has 2 of the 10 greatest quarterbacks of all time, and you only have 2 Super Bowls to show for it, that's insane.
That's why I feel like the coaching change could be a big kick in the ass too, for not only the front office and to to be uncomfortable to make moves, but for Aaron Rodgers to kind of, especially all the shit talk that's been happening, and with a lot of his name in a lot of people's mouths, I feel like he's going to be more motivated this year than we've seen in a long time, maybe ever, to kind of shut up the haters. And him playing with a chip on his shoulder, that's scary, dude. Aaron Rodgers playing with a chip on his shoulder, I feel like he's always the kind of guy that likes that. So him kind of having an edge on anybody, him going out there and feeling like he needs to prove something still, that's scary. That's the same way I feel like with LeBron. I feel like when LeBron gets out there playing with a chip on his shoulder, when he's still getting doubted, when everyone knows who he is, that's the scariest position to be in, and being on the opposite side of that. So we've seen him be great with lackluster talent, and I think he's got the best receiver he's had in his career. And if they go and they draft a nice young tight end that could be a legitimate threat downfield, maybe get a running back somewhere. If Aaron Jones, I think Aaron Jones is the talented running back, but they got to work on that O-line first, and they've got to get some defensive pieces. I know Hawk Clinton Dix isn't there anymore, and I know they've let go of a lot of other guys.
I just don't see the Packers making any playoff run anytime soon. Yeah, there's a coaching change.
But the Bears being as good as they are right now too. I know it's hard to see, man, but it's so hard for me to like. It's probably a bias on my mind because I've watched the guy all his career, and I love the guy, and I never count him out. It's hard for me to say to give up on him before the season even starts.
Speaking of the playoffs, actually, guys, there's actually some playoff stuff that I want to talk about. And has nothing to do with the NFL, has nothing to do with the Packers, and we're going to swing right into it because I want to fit it into this segment. The NBA playoffs are starting up, and I told everybody at the beginning of this podcast tonight, this episode, which, by the way, is our episode 9, that we want to talk a little bit more NBA. Now, I'm gonna keep this I'm not going to do the matchup by matchup, leading into the finals. I want to get right to the juicy part of it. The NBA finals is going to be very different this year because for the first time in 9 seasons, we don't have LeBron James involved with the playoffs at all. So this is going to be a very unique situation and how much people are interested in this year. But let's just say it goes really, really well and we get right to the finals. I don't want to assume anything from you guys. I want to get your guys' thoughts on this real quick. Trevor, give me your finals prediction. Who do you expect to be matching up in the finals? How many games does it go and who is the champion?
I didn't really think about how many games it goes. I didn't give it that much thought as far as, because that's so hard for me to I could throw them out there, but Western Conference Finals, I have Rockets Warriors. I think that's kind of the unanimous Western Conference Finals, unless somebody upsets somebody there. I have the Rockets winning.
Really?
Ooh.
Yes.
I got to hear this shit.
I think the Rockets, I think they're going to be more. I think this is when James Harden finally puts. I think this is when he finally puts the pedal to the metal, man. I know we haven't seen it, and I know they had the Warriors pinned last year. And Chris Paul got hurt.
Yep.
If they can maintain health, Chris Paul gets in Steph Curry's ass, and we've seen it. I mean, we've seen the opposite. We've seen Steph Curry burn him too. I think they have this edge on them right now, and I know they got Boogie now, and I know they've been featuring Boogie a lot. But I think Clint Capella matches up with Boogie pretty well. I think he's a better rebounder than Boogie, but Boogie's just this absolute beast inside. But we'll see. I think they edge him out. That's me, and I think it goes 6.
So you have the Rockets beating who?
The Warriors.
No, the Rockets beating who in the finals?
Oh no, I'm just bringing up Western Conference Finals. I have Rockets Warriors with Rockets coming
because that's already a hot take in itself. So who do you have the Rockets beating?
I get you.
Okay.
And then I got Bucks and 76ers in the East.
Okay.
I got Sixers winning that series.
Okay.
So I got Rockets 76ers and I got Rockets winning the finals.
Holy shit, man! I wasn't expecting that because
yes, sir.
I'll get to that in a second.
Mind blown.
I want to get your thoughts, Eddie. Who do you got in the finals, man? And now, how many games? Who wins?
Are we doing Western Conference?
Go ahead, because Trevor set the precedent. Go ahead, and do it.
right,
Go with
man.
it. Go with it.
For the Western Conference Finals, I'm gonna have Warriors OKC. I believe PG-13 pulls this team out of his ass and takes them to the Western Conference Finals. I believe PG wakes up that beast of Russell Westbrook in the playoffs. We only seen Russell Westbrook choke in the playoffs, but I think this year is gonna be different. They're gonna go play the Warriors, and that's gonna be the end of the run for the Thunder. I love the Thunder. I'm a huge follower, but I just don't see them beating Golden State. On the Eastern Conference,
a bad matchup, man.
On the Eastern Conference Finals, I have the 76ers and the Bucks, and I have the 76ers going winning in 6 games.
There you go.
I think the 76ers are that team that can and will make it to the finals.
Yep, I agree.
Now I got Golden State and the 76ers. My money's on Golden State on 7. That's where my money's at. I think the 76ers are good enough to give them a run for their money. It's not going to be easy for the Warriors. I know Kevin Durant wants that 3rd ring to tie LeBron, but it's not going to be easy. It's going to go to 7, and I believe the Golden State just pulls off.
Okay. Well, I want to talk about Trev's for a second because
man.
that's a sizzling take, bro, because you're talking about you're putting your faith in James Harden, who time and time again has choked in the playoffs and has played awful. I do agree with your Chris Paul take about that because they did have the Warriors on the ropes.
They had him, dude.
They should have won that series had he not pulled his hamstring. I totally agree with you. Here's the problem, though. The Rockets are not as good as they were last year. They're just not. They've relied heavily on James Harden scoring 36 points a game just to put them in the position they're in, and they're not the number 1 seed. You have to think about that, Trevor. Mm-hmm. The Rockets had home court advantage last year, which means that they had the advantage on the Warriors of having to go into Houston.
Did you watch them play each other this year?
Yes, I did, and the Rockets outperformed them. I don't disagree with you there. Okay. I'm talking about a 7-game series now and having Golden State with the actual home court. Now, I will give you this.
Golden State's not as good as they were last year. Right?
That was what I was going to say. Yeah. Golden State also isn't as good as ironically, but they do have the X factor of having 4 prolific all-pro players.
But what made the Warriors so, not to interrupt you, but what made the Warriors so dangerous is how fast they played.
Absolutely.
And how quick they were to get down the court and then dish it out for a quick 3 to Steph or KD to hit a stop and pop real quick.
Yes.
Now with Boogie in the mix, it slows their offense down.
I don't disagree with that. My point is they are more talented than the Rockets, and their superstars are far more proven in the playoffs than James Harden and Chris Paul are. Yep. It's not even a question. So I like your stance. I think it's very original. I just cannot agree with you in this at all because the Warriors are the by far best team in the NBA, and it's not close.
I'm taking the field.
I like your take. I don't agree with it at all. Yeah. I actually do have the Rockets making the Western Conference Finals again. I think the Thunder will give them some serious hell in that semi. I do expect. I think but see, that's another thing. The Thunder, to me, I can't trust them because of Russell Westbrook. Ironically, they're not deep. Exactly. You're relying on Steven Adams, who's averaging like 8 points a game, to be your third best player. PG is going to ball out. It's not enough. They're not beating the Rockets. Second of all, in the Eastern Conference Finals, I fully expect what you guys said, Bucks and Sixers.
It's a great.
I am taking the Bucks.
Okay.
The Bucks had a 60-win season this year, and Giannis Antetokounmpo is probably, maybe right now, currently, besides LeBron James, the best player in basketball. I think he should be a slam dunk MVP. Mm-hmm. I think that they have the perfect mix on their roster. They don't have a ton of superstars, but their team complements Antetokounmpo's game so well. And here's the biggest concern I have: the Sixers, I think, can actually beat the Bucks. They're the more talented team. Actually, going into this week before our show, I was actually considering the Sixers. Mm-hmm. But here's the problem: Joel Embiid might not play this first series. Now, I know they might be resting him, but let's be honest here. The Brooklyn Nets are no joke. So the Brooklyn Nets could actually give them a run. I'm not saying that the Sixers are going to beat them, but I'm saying without Joel Embiid, the Sixers have no shot of getting to the finals.
None of those guys in the Nets have any playoff experience.
I get that. I'm saying that without Joel Embiid, the Sixers are not a championship team. It's not even close. He is a top 5 MVP candidate.
They've been
this
resting
year.
Jimmy Butler all year. They've been letting him sit out games just for this reason, for this playoff push, and it's going to be fun to watch.
I'm picking the Bucks in 6. I think the Bucks, because they have home court advantage, they go in to play the Warriors in the finals, and the Warriors are going to absolutely obliterate them. It's going to happen. The Warriors are going to win that series in 5 games. Now, I hope it's the Warriors and Sixers because of the fact that me and Eddie have $100 bet on that. And what was it?
That's a great matchup for both teams.
I think it'd be great.
So fun to watch.
I think it'd be great. But I said that it was going to be 5 games that the Warriors win that series. Yeah. Eddie said 7. So I'm going to say that Eddie, if either way, we both picked the Warriors, but if it goes 7, Eddie owes me $100. So I'm all for that.
I don't think there's a better team in the league.
If they go 7, you owe me $100.
I don't think there's a better team.
I'm sorry, the other way around.
I don't think there's a better team in the league that matches up with the Warriors better than the Sixers. Because look at all the position players. You got Butler, who I think he could play Curry, or he could play Curry, KD, or he can play Clay.
Right.
He can lock damn near either one of them. Maybe not lock down KD, but he can definitely get in Steph's ass, and he can definitely get in Clay's ass.
Yeah.
And I think Boogie and Joel Embiid would be so fun to watch. I mean, the technical calls are going to be it's going to be so fun to watch, man. And then Tobias Harris and Klay Thompson, that's going to be a fun match. This is going to be that I want that
real quick before we go. I think we're almost out of time on this segment. Trevor, who's your MVP and Rookie of the Year?
MVP is Giannis, and it's runaway. Rookie of the Year is Luka. Easy.
Same, exactly.
Exactly same.
All 3 agreed right there.
I got stats to prove why Luka is too.
Giannis Antetokounmpo, MVP, I think by far. I know James Harden had a great season, and Paul George had a great season. It is Giannis by a mile. Yep. Luka Doncic had some competition with Trae Young, but as the season progressed, Trae Young started. Yes, Luka Doncic by far. Yeah. We're going to come back for another couple segments, guys. Actually, when we get back, fill in the cracks with Eddie Ortiz is going to inform us on some things that we may have missed, and of course, hold this L. We'll be back for that after this. Wasteland Society, an apparel brand inspired by the underground, the weird, the youth, post-punk, 80s and 90s pop culture, and the idea of living life on the opposite end of the spectrum to the fullest. Hand-printed in Kansas City using an eco-friendly printing process on sweatshop-free garments that are ethically made in the USA. Find them. We are Wasteland Society on Instagram. Back at it again on the Spoken Podcast for segment number 5 here in the KC Beard Co. studios with my guy Eddie Ortiz and Trevor Twidwell.
What's going on?
Before we get into the fill in the cracks with Eddie Ortiz, we're actually going to correct ourselves because in the break we were actually talking about the fact that we were under the assumption, because obviously we're dumbasses, that the Rockets and the Warriors could actually face each other in the finals when that's actually not true because of their seeding. If they both win their first round matchup, the Rockets and Warriors would ultimately face each other in the semis. Yeah. So that means that, Trevor, your prediction, are you going to stick with the Rockets beating the Warriors?
I'm going to stick with the Rockets in the finals, so they would have to beat them instead of the Western Conference Finals in the second round.
Yeah.
So who would you have them play in the Western Conference Finals?
Maybe Denver.
Oh, nice.
I think Denver, people still sleep on Denver, dude. They've been great all year. So I think it's definitely a possibility for them to do it. I'd have to sit there and think about it, and don't sleep on the Spurs either. I mean, anytime Popovich is in the playoffs, you can't really count him out either. So, and it could be OKC as well. So, I mean, I don't really know, man. Anybody, but I have them coming out of the West.
I actually agree. Now that we have actually looked at the bracket before we did that prediction, we're going to admit to the listeners, we were under the assumption that the Warriors and Rockets could play each other.
We were going off of the NFL ranking, kind of. The best team always plays the worst team. But
and again, maybe we should.
I got a little confused, so I digged a little deeper, and
maybe we all should just hold this L because that was pretty bad.
One too many beers.
But I would say that opens it up big time for the Thunder to make the Western Conference
absolutely,
Finals.
yeah.
And in fact, I'm going to say that. I say that the Warriors do overcome the Thunder in the Western Conference Finals. I think that's going to probably be a
fun one
5-6 game series. I think that Russell Westbrook can give you one incredible game in OKC. Paul George is going to average 30 in that series, but the Warriors are just too star-studded. And
what I want to see, Warriors 76ers in the finals.
Yes,
but my pick.
The seeding doesn't hurt that.
No. And I want to. That's what I want to see. But I think it's going to be Rockets 76ers, and I think the 76ers have a really good advantage. But I think the Rockets pull it out. Yeah.
All right, so Eddie, it is time to fill in the cracks, my man. I know you've been waiting all week for this. This is your favorite segment.
It's always so
go ahead and take it away, brother.
All right, man. I just want to get started with the Champions League. We had a little bit of Champions League action this week, Tuesday, Wednesday, with some great matchups. Now, the most expected matchup was Barcelona against Manchester United. That was the biggest game of the week, of the quarterfinals, Champions League's quarterfinals. Now, Messi did get a little banged up, but I don't think it's going to be anything serious. He might. I don't think he's playing this weekend with this team in La Liga. I think he's going to be rested because of the way Chris Smalling just tossed him. I saw a replay and it looked like he just wanted to hurt Messi, and I don't know. So with Barcelona, who played Manchester United, it was a 1-0 win for Barcelona with an own goal by Luke Shaw. It was a great game. I didn't get to watch most of it, but what I watched, it was pretty darn good. Then we had another great matchup. This is one of the best English matchups we have in the quarterfinals. We have Tottenham playing Manchester City. Now, this matchup is great in many ways because Tottenham is a great team. Manchester City is obviously on the race for the title with about 5-6 games remaining. So Tottenham won it on the 78th minute with Son's goal. Was it lucky? I don't know. But they won it with 41 possession. They did have more shots on target. I mean, with 4 compared to the 2 that Manchester City had. But Manchester City had control of the game, and I don't know where Tottenham got that one counterattack and just got it. So that's another game. Then we had 2 other games that, I mean, they were pretty big, but I mean, nothing as big as the last 2 I just mentioned. We had Liverpool playing Porto, and obviously Porto is like the underdog in that game. For them to beat Liverpool would be like a miracle. So they did fall 2-0 to Liverpool. Was that expected? Yes. Would we see Porto lift up and come back on the second leg? I highly doubt it, just because they're just the smaller team. Like I said, they're the underdog. Have we seen it before done? Yes. It would be shocking if that actually happens. It would be really shocking because Liverpool is one of the favorites to win the Champions League. So for Porto, one of the teams that are like obviously the underdog to come out and beat them, it's hard to tell. So we will see on that. Then we have Ajax and Juventus. That's the last matchup. Great matchup. It was a great fought game. They both Ajax just dominated Juventus. Juventus did not know how to play that game. Ajax just played the game of their lives. Obviously, they're the underdogs because Juventus has Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yeah.
So obviously, anybody who plays against Cristiano Ronaldo is obviously the underdog. But what we saw in that game it's unbelievable because Ajax just knew how to shut Ronaldo down, how to shut Juventus down. Yes, Ronaldo got a goal, but I just the way they shut him down is just unbelievable. Can they do it again? Let's hope so. But they're playing in Juventus home. They're playing in Italy, so we will see. I mean, Juventus are the favorites to win it, but it's so close. The matchup is so close because it's just other than Ronaldo, you have your Dybalas, you have Khedira, you have Douglas Costa, you have Cuadrado, but when it comes to big games, those guys just disappear. They're there, but can you find them? Not really, man. It's hard for me to see Juventus come out on a win on this. I'm just gonna go on a limb and say Ajax will eliminate Juventus in the quarterfinal. Let's see what happens in this next week's game, but that's gonna be my prediction on that. All right, so moving along from Champions League, we're gonna go into what I love, my other love, which is Formula One. Not a lot of fans probably that listen watch Formula One, but it is the motorsport everybody watches, like worldwide. This is a worldwide motorsport, and I love it. I love it. There's always the tracks are always packed. Doesn't matter where they go. So this is week 3 in Formula One. Week 3 will be raced in China. What would happen this weekend? Last weekend we obviously saw Charles Leclerc with that heartbreaking loss. He did pick a podium in 3rd place, but from leading pretty much the entire race and having his turbo like pretty much gone with like 13 to 15 laps remaining on the race, it was just heartbreaking seeing him get passed by Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas. It was heartbreaking. Me as a Ferrari fan, I man, I almost teared up for the guy, man, because he had everything to win that race, and for him, seeing him the way he lost that race, it's just heartbreaking. Lewis Hamilton, who won the race, did talk to him. He even commented on his own team radios, like, man, I feel bad for Charles Leclerc, but you know, it's part of this. It's part of the sport, and you know, he just has to lift his head up. Not let this be like something to drag him down. Let this be a lesson, and you know, just move forward. And me as a Ferrari fan, I appreciated that from Lewis Hamilton. He was being humble, and obviously, everybody in the entire Formula One was like heartbroken for Charles Leclerc. He's 21 years old. He's coming up, and the way he's driving, man, he can come down to be one of the best drivers Ferrari has seen since Michael Schumacher, and that's saying a lot. But I mean, it's still his first season. It's only been 2 races, but what he has shown so far, it's potential, and I love that kid, man. He wants to race and he wants to win. I love that about him. So hopefully this weekend he can come out on top and get that win that he deserved last week. I just hope that Ferrari can get their shit together and get the 1-2 finish that they need. They really need the 1-2 to get back into the title race. They have to get the 1-2. Obviously, you got your Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas from Mercedes just having like unbelievable starts to the season. It's both I believe is 1-2 finishes in 2 races. So that's hard to do, but at the end of the day, they were a little lucky in last 2 weeks ago. So let's just hope Ferrari can come out on top and Forza Ferrari.
Yeah.
And then one last little topic I wanted to talk about. I didn't want to talk about it too much because it's depressing on its own. It's Sporting losing in the CONCACAF Champions League. Sad, but
yeah,
you know, it happens. Let's just move on.
Yep. I like how you're just like, yeah,
you got to grow from it, man.
Let's just move on. I want to mention it. It sucks, and let's just rip that scab off real quick. Yeah. So I appreciate that, Eddie. Really appreciate you always letting us know things that some of us based sports fans, when it comes to just baseball, basketball, and football, you know, we need to learn some of these things, and I appreciate that. And we've actually had a lot of people asking for you to touch on some of these things, so that's always good. So that's Eddie Ortiz filling in the cracks. Let's give him a little hand. So good job, brother. But now we're going to move on to our favorite segment of the week. You guys all know it. You guys all love it. Guys, what's it called?
Hold this L.
It's time to hold this L.
I want you to do me a favor and hold this L.
Somebody's got to hold that L.
Le who? The her.
I'm talking like caps lock L LL Cool J style.
Hold that L.
Good God, man. Hold this gigantic, veiny, pulsating L.
Man, you are one pathetic loser.
You ignorant bastard.
That was great. Hold this L. Hold this L. Brought to you by Casey Beard Co. CaseyBeardCo.com. Providing you with beard and skincare products that you can use on a daily basis to take care of your beard and skin, made with 100% organic ingredients in Kansas City over the last 5 years. CaseyBeardCo.com, 100% organic ingredients, 100% organic manliness. All right, guys, here we are. This is our favorite time. This is our 9th Hold This L. We're moving in almost into double digits. And we have yet, and hopefully I'm not, hold on. Let me, our table is wood, so let me knock on it because we've never had the same L to hand out. So, Eddie, as always, I'm going right back to you, bro. Who do you got holding this L, brother?
I'm going to give it to none other than Sporting Kansas City.
God damn it. That's why you moved on from it so quick. You wanted to hold on.
Exactly. I didn't want to talk too much about it. It was sad. It was depressing. It was a shit. They played like shit.
I want to put that on your tombstone. It was a shit.
Here's a nice piece of shit.
It was one of the worst. It was one of the worst things I've ever seen. They did not only lose 5-2 in this game, but they lost in 5-0 in the first leg. So a combination of 10-2 in just 2 games.
Got bent over.
You cannot, and I repeat, you cannot let that happen to you. Sporting Kansas City, they have the team to compete. I don't know what happened. Maybe they just saw that it was a Mexican team and they were like, oh shit, we're gonna lose. And fuck, man, they got penetrated so bad. Jesus Christ. Oh my God.
This has been a great one so far, man. I love it.
A lot of heavy breathing.
This might be your best one.
Man. Sporting Kansas City. I don't know what the fuck. I don't know what. I just don't know what to say.
Right. Sporting Kansas City, please, if you could be so kind and just
hold this L.
Because that L, because you guys were shit.
That L was a shit.
Oh man,
it wasn't the shit. It was a shit. Thank you for the.
It was just one turd.
It was a whole shit.
Yeah, it wasn't a whole shit.
It was an entire complete shit.
It was a loaf.
Thank you for that, Eddie.
Loaf.
Trev,
all right, man.
Who's holding the L for you this week, man?
I know most of you know this one, but I got to give mine to Antonio Brown, man.
No, it's Mr. Big Chest.
Yeah, Mr. Yeah, say it with your chest.
Who'd that be?
Big chest. Mr. Yellow Stash. Yeah, man, this is coming from me personally, someone who's always I've always loved AB. I've always been a big supporter of him, and during his antics, whenever he would get penalized by the league for doing excessive celebrations and just being him, man. I always loved who he was as a player and his flashiness. But coming over the last couple of years, we've come to find out how the guy really is, and he has shown his true colors over the last couple of seasons. And a lot of the things that have come out and been said about him have been damn near proven to be true, and have been shown by not only other people or said by other people, but him exposing himself as such things. So I don't know if any of you really saw that what I'm actually talking about on Twitter. Pretty much, he got into a little back and forth with a fan on Twitter. Yeah, the professional athletes on Twitter having a back and forth with fans.
What?
Supposedly, there was things being said about his character from this said person, and he proceeds, and then they're talking about, I guess the fan was talking about Juju possibly being better than him or the favorite of the team or so on, blah, blah, blah. I don't even know why he's entertaining the thoughts of these things from average Joes. And then he proceeds to go on to dispute with someone over Twitter about Juju, and then continues to talk about how Juju fumbled on a big play that cost him a big playoff spot.
I believe Juju even commented on that, didn't he?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Juju then responds, because to begin with, let me start off beginning with, Antonio Brown's been pushing the message about keeping your emotions off the internet, right? This is before. And then after these posts about keeping your emotions off the internet, Antonio Brown proceeds to go on Twitter and have these heated back and forths with random fans. And then he decides to throw Juju under the bus for no reason when Juju was never even in the conversation. This is an age vet, an all-time great on Twitter doing this, and then proceeds to talk about how Juju fumbled on a big play and cost them a game. And then Juju obviously comes in and responds with all due respect. I mean, he has every right to. His name's being thrown out there without him being in the conversation. So he came across it and then obviously responded with "keep your emotions off the internet." Just kind of reposting what Antonio Brown's been pushing. To kind of give him a taste of his own medicine and preach what he's been preaching. And then Antonio Brown then proceeds to post a DM message that Juju had sent him when Juju was in college in USC, reaching out to Antonio Brown before he was even in the league, talking about, I look up to you, man, blah, blah, blah. If you can give me any pointers, blah, blah, blah. Much respect. I love you. You're one of my idols. Yeah. Antonio Brown posts that as if that's some kind of diss to Juju. I don't really understand how that
just made him look more like a dick.
It made him look more, and that's what I'm saying when I'm getting to how he's exposing himself as these things he's been accused of. He's putting the spotlight on himself to expose himself, and he doesn't even know it. So I think AB realizes he lost favoritism with that franchise and understands that Juju was the MVP, the most valuable player on that team, and moving forward. And that's why he was pushing to get out of there now, because he was no longer the favorite child and he couldn't handle it. And all I want to say now is, good luck in Oakland, where careers go to die. You've picked the absolute worst time to be in the AFC West. So with that, Antonio Brown, you can go ahead and hold this L, motherfucker.
I like that because
it's horrible, man.
I posted when I saw him screenshot that message from Juju back in his USC days.
I don't understand it.
I literally said, man, you know what? I've loved Antonio Brown since I can
so
remember,
petty,
but fuck Antonio Brown,
right?
Like straight up.
Yeah, I seen that.
Was it the caption was like a mic?
Yes,
like a mic drop. I'm like,
I don't think Antonio Brown realizes how stupid he looks and how
he's totally ruining his reputation.
He's handled how horribly he's handled this offseason, and it's so embarrassing. I'm actually embarrassed for Antonio Brown because he had so many opportunities to do the right thing in this, and still, like, you could have left the Steelers and still look like a good guy. You could have still maintained your image, and people would still love you and everything like that.
If he would just stayed quiet, nobody would have.
Honestly, it's not the vocality of it's fine. It's the way he handled it. Like, his vocality is being vocal about stuff that you were frustrated with is okay. It's the fact that he was creating problems is the problem.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Going at Juju Smith-Schuster, who's one of the nicest people in the NFL, a humble kid who was reaching out to you.
Great
that
talent.
Shit just makes no sense at all. And I'm so glad you gave him that L, because if you wouldn't have, I would have changed mine and gave it to him, because that's just the way. Like I said, I'm sorry if this offends anybody for saying, but fuck Antonio Brown.
It sucks, man. Like I said, for me, it sucks because I've always, never was I a fan of many players from the Steelers, but I loved Antonio Brown, man. I loved what the product that he would always give us on the field. And
he had 15 touchdowns last season. We're not talking about that.
He is a top 5 all-time wide receiver, and it's just
he had 15 touchdowns last season. We're not even talking about that. It's just insane. So
now he's stuck in Oakland. So
in order to dry out an out and infield in Ridgefield, Connecticut, someone poured a whole lot of gasoline over it and set it ablaze. Authorities said it could cost more than $50,000 in repair to damage done, per the Ridgefield Press. 6 to 8 inches of, quote, gas-soaked oil, unquote, had to be removed from the field Saturday night and Sunday morning following the fire. In addition to large, uncontrolled fires from being highly recommended, pouring gallons and gallons of gasoline into this oil is not good for the environment. They have a video on here from at Amity Norton showing the field maintenance that's being done. They're actually setting the field on fire to try and dry it because of the games they needed to play, but there was rain in the forecast previous. To dry out the field, the unnamed person or persons who started the fire used 25 gallons of gas.
Not enough.
Even Wile E. Coyote would probably say that's overkill. First Selectman Rudy Marconi, told the paper that 75 to 100 people saw the event happen and many recorded it on their mobile phones. Quote, the base path, the dirt on the field was set, and it was evident that they'd have to relocate or cancel because of the conditions. Some had the idea to put gas on the surface, let it burn and dry up in water and make the field playable, he said. Quote, again, unfortunately, it was not a very good idea in theory. It sounded plausible, I guess, to those who participated. No one has been charged in the incident.
Oh my God.
They have to be charged.
I don't even know if I really need to go into this. I could just say hold this L right now, because that is, I'm sorry to say this, but it amazes me how many stupid people that
get
are.
off the weed.
It just soaks the gasoline. What? They just thought it was going to sit on the top of it? Like, what the?
Like, you don't understand. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Remember, I was talking about this a couple days when we first heard the story. I'm like, it isn't like you put this in Tupperware. Like soil absorbs things. Like you can't just put it on there and go, hey. Now,
gas flammable?
Now, I will say this before anybody jumps my ass because of this. You actually can use certain amounts of gasoline to dry fields and dirt and things like that.
Yes, I've seen it.
Not 25 gallons. Like, I don't know how, like, who came up with the genius idea? Like, was it the dude that came out of the bar at like 11:30 in the morning and said, hey, let's fucking put the...
I got a life hack for
gas.
you. I got a life hack for you.
There's matches and gas.
Limited supply of gas.
I don't understand how that became a thing.
Old gas trick.
So I'm not gonna expand on it anymore. The story itself explained how dumb this was. So the people of Ridgefield, Connecticut, that helped with this burning of a field, why don't you go ahead and hold on to this flaming L? So guys, let's go ahead and say it. Hold this flaming L.
Yeah, flaming hot.
It was a hot L.
Super hot.
Burning.
Eddie gave us a shit. Trevor gave us a psychopath with a Hulk Hogan mustache.
Egotistic maniac.
And I gave you a flaming L. This has been a good night.
Yeah.
That's the best ones we've had.
I'll go out on a limb, and we've kept our streak alive. 9 straight weeks of not similar L's or handing the same L. I will say this though, guys. We do have a really cool announcement, very exciting announcement about next week. As you guys know, we've had several guests in the past come on. We actually have a very high-profile guest coming on next week. We are very excited about it. My guy,
Donald Trump.
The Spoken podcast is great.
It's gonna be huge.
It's gonna be huge. I'm gonna play you guys on the walls. No. Seriously though, we are very excited. We are very, very excited about this. We are going to have lead draft analyst from Arrowhead Pride, Kent Swanson, on our show next week. It's going to be a blast. This guy drops knowledge like crazy.
We're all going to feel really stupid in here.
Yeah.
So, Kent, if you're listening to this,
draft study myself. Sleep.
Kent, if you're listening to this, man, in advance, we're so sorry.
We're going to need to get Kent really drunk.
We're so sorry. We're going to have to give you tons of beers, bro, so that way you can maybe dumb down a little bit so you can come down to our level, because I don't even know why you're wasting your time with us, but thank you so much for coming on the show in advance.
Appreciate you, man.
So,
huge shout out.
It's going to be a blast.
Sure.
We're looking forward to that. In the meantime, until next episode, guys, it's Game of Thrones week. That's all I know. I don't know if you guys saw my shirt, but I'm got that Jon Snow on, dude.
Be ready for Sunday.
No spoilers.
Hey, I just got caught up. What was it? On Tuesday,
Season 1?
I went from season 1 through season 7, and I finally am all
Can't
caught
wait,
up.
man.
And I'm so fucking excited. It's only been a week for me, not even a week. And I can't wait. I don't know how you guys did it for a year and a half.
Man, dude.
Well, I lost all my hair on my head, so if that makes you feel any better, I was stressing this whole time. And all I'll say, I'm no spoilers, guys, but just remember, R plus L equals J. So all my Game of Thrones fans knows what that means. It's about the prince that was promised. I'm really excited about this. It's only 6 episodes, so we're gonna have to really savor this, but it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. So, in that, guys, I am Lance Twidwell for Eddie Ortiz, for Trevor Toole, for all of our sponsors, Modern Man Supply Company, KC Hemp Company, KC Hard Goods, Midcoast Modern, Wasteland Society, Commandeer Brand. The list goes on. These guys have all been great to us. Yeah, support the local companies out there. That's why we have them. That's why they have us. We're so grateful. And for Clay Windler for always helping us with his productions, with his producing. Thank you guys so much. We're looking forward to doing this more often. It's going to be episode 10. And it's going to be great. We're going to set that off ablaze, guys, with Kent Swanson. Like I said, we're looking forward to that.
The season finale for us.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Well, this thing's just getting started. So, thank you guys so much for listening to this. And we really, really appreciate all of you guys. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts.
Give us a rating and review.
Rate and review. Yes. You can follow us on Spotify, Stitcher, Radio Republic, pretty much anywhere you can
Apple
find podcasts. Yes, you can absolutely find us. Follow Eddie Ortiz on Twitter, Ortiz816, Trevor at Treviathan89. I am at Lance the Spoken, and our Twitter account is actually the Spoken PC. So definitely follow us on there. Get on Facebook. Join us our Facebook group, The Spoken. Let's talk some sports, guys. But until then, we'd love to hear from you. But until then, we're out of this bitch.
Later.
See ya.
We're going to get out of this bitch. Thank you so much for listening, guys.
See ya.
You are tuned into The Spoken.
I might actually stick around for a little bit.